Hey guys, tonight we're slipping past the swimming pools and the sunglasses and the tanned, smiling husbands into one of the hungriest corners of the American century. The diets that 1960s Hollywood wives used to stay camera thin, where breakfast was 2 raw eggs in a glass, lunch was a can, and the doctor's cure for being a woman was a fistful of amphetamines. Not with discipline, not with exercise, not with anything a modern nutritionist would sign off on. No, with black coffee, cigarettes, rainbow pills, a chalky drink that warned you might disappear, and the occasional decision to simply sleep for 3 days so you couldn't reach the refrigerator. Thank you all for settling in with me tonight. If this channel is quietly tucking you into sleep at night, do me a small favor and tap subscribe before you drift off. And down in the comments, confess which of tonight's diets you would have absolutely tried. Be honest. The one where you nap the weight away is looking very reasonable right about now, so get comfortable. Dim the room, set the fan going, drag the covers over your shoulders, and please, just for tonight, do not weigh yourself before bed. The scale has said enough today. How did a woman get through a dinner party on 1 martini and a pill? Why the finest doctors in Beverly Hills decided the answer to everything was an injection they refused to describe? What it felt like to eat a piece of candy specifically to ruin your appetite for the meal you were about to sit down to? Who looked at rat poison and thyroid hormone and thought, together at last? Did anyone eat an actual sandwich? Did they sleep? Did they ever, even once, get to be simply hungry and left alone? Congratulations. You just woke up in Beverly Hills, 1963. Your breakfast is a raw egg. There is a bottle of little pills by the coffee that make the hunger vanish and the ceiling fascinating. And your dress for tonight was cut for a slightly smaller woman, so you will not be breathing deeply until Tuesday. Good luck. You wake before the alarm because the alarm is not the first thing you have to face. The scale is. It lives on the cold tile of the bathroom floor, a small white enameled machine with a dial like a clock, and before coffee, before clothes, before you have said a word to anyone, you step onto it and wait for the needle to settle. Whatever number it lands on will decide the shape of your whole day. What you eat, what you take, how you feel walking into a room. You step on barefoot, holding your breath, as if that helps. The needle swings out, hesitates, and drifts back to its verdict. The scale does not soften it. The scale has no bedside manner. It sits there radiating the calm authority of a small unpaid bill, and it reports your body to you in a single figure with all the warmth of a parking ticket. You have learned to prepare for the reading like a woman approaching a bank teller she owes money. You take off the nightgown first, because the nightgown surely weighs something. You wait until after you have used the bathroom, because every ounce counts and the scale will hold each one against you. Some mornings you even take off your wedding ring and set it on the sink, as though a band of gold is the thing standing between you and triumph. None of it is rational. All of it is ritual. And the ritual is the point, a small ceremony of control performed for an audience of one machine. The number is never just a number, a good number, and the day opens up in front of you, generous and bright, and you allow yourself the black coffee and the cigarette and a genuine feeling of having earned your own body. A bad number, even half a pound the wrong way, and a small cold door closes somewhere behind your ribs. You will diet harder. You will skip the thing you were going to eat. You will carry the figure around all day like a stone in your shoe, feeling it with every step. Ruby, who keeps the house, has learned to read the verdict off your face before you reach the kitchen. She does not ask how you slept. She glances at your mouth, sees the set of it, and pours the coffee accordingly, black and silent on the bad mornings, black and with a kind word on the good ones. She has never once seen the dial herself, and she does not need to. She has been translating that machine's opinion off your expression for years, the way a sailor reads weather off a sky. Let's talk about how strange it is to weigh yourself before you have eaten anything at all. The number is at its very lowest first thing in the morning, scoured and empty overnight, and you have chosen this exact moment to be judged, because you would rather be measured at your smallest than at your truest. You are, in effect, catching your own body in its underwear and calling it the official portrait. Every woman you know does the same. Nobody weighs in after dinner. That would be honesty, and honesty is not what the scale is for. By the time you step off, the whole day has already been assigned its mood. The scale has spoken, and you have agreed to be sentenced by it, and you will not question its authority any more than you would argue with a thermometer. You slide it back against the wall with your foot, where it waits, patient, enameled, and smug, for tomorrow morning, when you will stand on it again, barefoot and hopeful and holding your breath, and let a piece of bathroom equipment tell you whether you are allowed to feel like yourself today. You do not really eat breakfast, but you perform a version of it, because a working woman needs something and because a movie star once said this exact thing keeps her thin. So you crack 2 raw eggs into a cup of warm milk, stir until it goes pale and slick, and drink it standing up while you find your shoes. There is a multivitamin to swallow after, a large one, chalky and hard to get down. That is the entire meal. You tell yourself it is nourishing, and you half believe it, and you do not eat again until evening. The drink itself is a small act of faith. 2 eggs, dropped whole into warm milk, beaten with a fork until the yolks surrender, and the whole thing turns the colour of weak custard and moves like something that would prefer not to be swallowed. It slides down cold, thick, and faintly obscene, and it tastes exactly as you would expect a cup of raw egg to taste, which is to say, it tastes of a decision you have made about your life. You drink it fast. Speed is mercy here. The reason you drink it at all is that a famous actress described this very breakfast in a magazine, cheerfully, as her secret, and called it the most nourishing thing a working girl in a hurry could have. She admitted it was bizarre. She was right about that part, but you copied it down anyway, because if it keeps her looking the way she looks, then a little raw egg is a small price. And besides, the magazine said it, and the magazine has never yet led you astray in any way you have been willing to notice. Esther, who cooks for the house and would happily make you a real breakfast, watches you drink the egg with the expression of a woman watching someone salt a perfectly good peach. She is offered eggs the ordinary way, warm and folded in butter with toast the colour of a good tan. You said no. You always say no. So she stands at the counter, wiping a pan she has no reason to wipe, and lets you drink your cold, slippery faith out of a glass, and says nothing, because she has learned that saying something changes nothing. The vitamin is the punctuation at the end of the sentence. It is enormous, a horse of a pill roughly the size of a boot heel, and it is meant to put back everything the breakfast forgot to include, which is nearly everything. You wash it down and feel briefly virtuous, as though a single pill has quietly handled the entire question of nutrition on your behalf, freeing you to go on not eating with a clear conscience. This is the great convenience of the vitamin. It lets you skip the food and keep the feeling of having been fed. And then you are done, and it is not yet mid-morning, and you will not put another thing in your body until the sun goes down, unless it is coffee, which does not count, or a cigarette, which counts even less. The egg is supposed to hold you. It does not hold you. By 11 your stomach is making its position known, a low insistent complaint you have learned to overrule the way you would overrule a child asking for a second cookie. You rinse the glass yourself, because there is something you do not like about handing Esther the evidence, and you set it in the rack still faintly clouded. You have had your breakfast. It weighed almost nothing and asked almost nothing of the world and left you almost exactly as empty as it found you, which is, when you are honest, the whole reason you chose it. A real breakfast might have made you a real woman with a real appetite, and an appetite is the one thing you cannot afford. So you have eggs in a glass instead, and you call it looking after yourself, and you go and find your other shoe. You pour the coffee black because milk is calories and sugar is out of the question, and you drink it fast on an empty belly that immediately complains. This is not really a drink. It is a tool. The coffee is here to fill the space where breakfast would be, to give your hand something warm to hold and your mouth something to do, and to sharpen you into the bright, slightly hollow alertness that passes for feeling well. You will have 4 or 5 cups before noon, and each one buys you another hour of not being hungry, or of not admitting it. Black coffee on an empty stomach is its own small punishment, and you have grown to depend on the punishment. It goes down bitter and hot and leaves a sourness behind it, and about 20 minutes later your hands develop a faint tremor, and the day takes on a jittery, overlit quality, like a room with one bulb too many. This is not a side effect you are trying to avoid. This is the product. The shakiness means it is working, means the hunger has been shouted down for another hour, means you are winning. The cup itself becomes a kind of prop you carry through the morning. As long as there is coffee in your hand, you are doing something, you are occupied. You are not the woman standing idle near the pastries wondering whether one would really hurt. The coffee is an alibi. It says you are fine, you are fueled, you have had something, when what you have had is a hot brown liquid with a calorie count of essentially 0 and the nutritional value of a strong opinion. The coffee is bitter, black and unbothered. Marguerite, who lunches with you most weeks, drinks it exactly the same way and treats her own cup like a wristwatch, checking it, timing herself by it. She measures out her mornings in refills. One cup gets her dressed, the second gets her through the telephone calls. The third she nurses slowly on the patio, holding it with both hands as though it were the last warm thing in the world, and by the fourth she has decided she is not hungry, only tired, and tiredness is allowed. You have watched her do this for years, and you have never once seen her eat before mid-afternoon. Of course, the coffee does not actually feed you, and your body is not fooled for long. Around 11, the hunger comes back sharper for having been denied, a real physical ache with a bad temper, and you meet it with a fifth cup, which is a little like putting out a fire by shouting at it. The coffee does not fill the hole. It only lights the edges of it so you can see how deep it goes. There is a whole economy of these non-foods that hold your day together, and coffee is the currency. Black coffee for the appetite, a cigarette for the nerves, the coffee phrase, another coffee for the slump, the cigarette leaves. You move from one to the next in a small closed circle, a self-powered machine that runs on bitterness and produces the appearance of a woman who simply is not very interested in food. It is exhausting to maintain, and you maintain it beautifully. By noon, the pot is empty and you are wired and hollow and faintly nauseated, which you have decided to interpret as discipline. You rinse the cup and set it down and feel the caffeine humming in you like a plucked wire. You have not eaten. You will not eat for hours yet, but you have had 5 cups of something, and your hands have been busy, and your mouth has been occupied, and the great gnawing want in the middle of you has been talked out of speaking, at least until lunch, when you will sit at a table full of food and order, with enormous confidence, another coffee. You take the first pill with the last of the coffee, a small pill from a bottle the studio doctor filled without much conversation. Within 20 minutes, the hunger lifts clean off you like a coat being taken, and something else arrives in its place. A brightness, a speed, a sense that you could clean the whole house and learn Italian before lunch. You feel wonderful. You feel capable, light, and entirely uninterested in food, which is exactly what the pill is for. Nobody calls it what it is. They call it your little helper, your energy, your prescription. The pill is small and unremarkable, a little pellet that rattles alone in its brown bottle, and it does more to your morning than breakfast ever could. What it removes is not just the hunger, but the whole question of hunger, the low background hum of wanting that follows you the rest of the time. It simply turns the hum off. In its place, it installs a bright electric certainty that everything is manageable, everything is easy, and you are, at last, the efficient, shining version of yourself you have always suspected was in there. What the pill actually is, of course, is amphetamine, though you would no sooner use that word than you would curse in church. It is a stimulant, the same broad family of thing that keeps soldiers awake and truck drivers upright, prescribed to you in a tidy bottle by a man in a white coat and taken with your coffee like a supplement. The white coat launders it. A thing a doctor hands you across a desk cannot be a drug, you have decided. Lorna, who shares your doctor and your dress size, keeps her bottle in a gold pill box in her handbag, mixed in with the aspirin so it looks like nothing, and she taps one into her palm at the lunch table with the casual grace of a woman freshening her lipstick. She does it mid-sentence, without breaking stride, and swallows it dry, and goes on telling you about her sister. You have both stopped noticing that you do this. It has become as ordinary as checking your watch, this small chemical adjustment made in public, in daylight, between the salad and the coffee. The trouble, which you feel and file away and do not examine, arrives later in the day when the pill wears thin and drops you off a small cliff. The brightness curdles, the energy goes jagged and anxious. Your heart, which spent the morning humming pleasantly, starts tapping at your ribs in a way you would rather not think about, and by evening you are wrung out and wired at once, unable to eat and unable to rest. So there will be another pill tonight to bring you down, and you climbed aboard the whole machine to lose 10 pounds. Here is the part that stays with you on the honest mornings. The pill works. That is the terrible thing about it. You are thinner, you are faster, you get more done before noon than most people manage in a day, and the world rewards you warmly for all of it. Nobody is going to stop you. Your doctor refills the bottle. Your husband likes the results. Everything around you agrees that this is fine, this is modern, this is simply what an ambitious woman does. And so you go on taking the small bright pill that removes your appetite and your peace in the same swallow. You cap the bottle and set it back in the drawer where it lives, next to the other bottle, the nighttime one, its quiet partner. The two of them keep you running now, one to start the engine and one to cut it. And between them you spend your days at the wrong speeds, too fast or too slow, rarely the ordinary human pace in the middle. You do not think of yourself as a woman who takes pills. You think of yourself as a woman with a great deal of energy, and you go and use it, and the engine hums. You go to the doctor the way other women go to the hairdresser, on a standing appointment for maintenance. His waiting room is full of women exactly like you, thin already, wanting to be thinner, and he sees you quickly and writes without much examining. The prescription is the point of the visit. He hands you a bottle of pills in several colours, one to speed you up, one to calm the speed, one for the water, and tells you to come back in a month. He is warm, he is reassuring, and he never once tells you no. That is why you chose him. Dr. Gans has an office in a good building with a view of the hills and a nurse named Verna, who knows every regular by her first name and her ideal weight. Verna weighs you at the door, writes the figure on a card without comment, and waves you through. And the whole visit has the brisk efficiency of a car being serviced. You are not sick. Everyone in this waiting room understands that nobody here is sick. You have come to be topped up, and Dr. Gans is the man who tops you up, and business is very good. The genius of the arrangement is the colours. He does not hand you one honest pill. He hands you a small rainbow, a bright pill for the mornings, a duller one to take the edge off it, a third for the water weight, and perhaps a fourth to help you sleep through the mess the first three make. Each colour has a job, one speeding the tempo up while another drags it down, and you are the concert hall. There is a rule in this trade that you do not know about, and it is a marvel of quiet cynicism. The companies that make these pills tell the doctors never to prescribe the same combination twice. A different rainbow for every woman, so that each of you feels personally understood, individually treated, given something made just for you. The customized poisoning is the luxury service. You leave feeling that Dr. Gans has considered your particular body with great care, when what he has done is reach into a drawer of bright bottles and assemble you a fresh set of colours, like a man building a child a bracelet. What is actually in the little rainbow is a question the little rainbow would prefer you not put to it. The fast one is amphetamine. The one for the water flushes you out and takes your strength with it. And folded in among them, in more than a few of these regimens, is a dose of thyroid, the hormone that runs the body's whole furnace, handed to women whose furnaces work perfectly well, to make them burn hotter, faster and thinner, and, now and then, to make a healthy young heart beat itself into trouble. State it plainly and it sounds like a poisoning. Say it in Dr. Gans's warm voice and it sounds like care. He walks you to the door himself, a hand light at your elbow, and tells you that you look wonderful, that the plan is working, that he will see you in a month. He means the reassurance. He is not a villain twirling a moustache, just a comfortable man who has found that yes is more profitable than no, and arranged his whole practice around the difference. The little rainbow bottles go out the door in handbag after handbag, all over town. You tuck the new bottle into your bag beside the old one, and step back out into the bright parking lot feeling looked after. That is the thing you are really buying here, more than the pills. You are buying a man who will never tell you that you are fine as you are, never suggest you simply eat lunch, never once use a word like enough. He tells you what you came to hear, and he writes it on a pad, and you pay at the desk, and Verna books you for next month on your way out. You roll up your sleeve because there is a doctor in town whose injection is the most fashionable thing in it, and everyone who is anyone has felt it burn going into the arm. He calls it a vitamin shot, an energy formula, his own special blend, and he will not tell you exactly what is in it. What you know is how it feels. Within a minute the room gets sharper and warmer, your tiredness vanishes, and you feel powerful, clear and wonderful for hours. You will want it again tomorrow. That wanting, though you do not know it yet, is the whole design. Dr. Landau does not keep an ordinary practice. He keeps a following. His rooms are quiet and expensive and full of famous exhaustion, and you have sat in his waiting area beside faces you have only ever seen in newsprint, all of you there for the same mysterious little injection, none of you quite meeting one another's eyes. He fills the syringe himself, with his back half turned, mixing this and that from a row of unlabelled vials with the concentration of a man building a watch. You do not ask what goes in. The mystery is part of what you are paying for. What is in the syringe, by every account anyone has managed to piece together, is a startling little committee of ingredients. Amphetamine. First, the engine of the whole thing. Then a scatter of vitamins to make the word vitamin technically true. Then enzymes and animal hormones and a tranquilizer to keep the amphetamine from tipping you straight into the ceiling. And, if the whispers are to be believed, a measure of ground-up placenta, because nothing says rejuvenation like an ingredient you would rather not picture. He draws it all up into one barrel and calls it his formula, and slides it into your arm. The burn is real and immediate, a hot line running up the vein, and then the burn blooms into the most extraordinary sense of well-being you have ever bought. Whatever was tired in you is simply gone. Whatever was worried has lost interest in worrying. You could give a speech. You could charm a room. You could, and frequently do, sail through an entire evening of smiling and standing and being photographed without once flagging, running on the doctor's little committee, feeling like the most alive woman in California. And then, some hours later, the committee adjourns, and it takes the well-being with it when it goes. You come down grey and flat and scraped, twice as tired as before you started, because you have spent energy you did not actually have, borrowed against tomorrow at a rate you have not read. The only known cure for how the shot leaves you is another shot, which is not a bug in Dr. Landau's system. It is the entire architecture of it. He has not sold you an energy formula. He has sold you a reason to come back, dressed as an energy formula, and you will. The genius of it, the thing you can admire even as it closes around you, is that everyone important is in on it. The men who run the studios get the shot. The politicians get the shot. The singers and the writers and the ball players get the shot, walking out of Dr. Landau's rooms glowing and magnetic and quietly, elegantly hooked. When the most powerful people you can name are all rolling up the same sleeve, poison shared at that altitude stops looking like poison and starts looking like access. You press the little cotton ball into the crook of your elbow and bend your arm to hold it, and step back out into the day feeling, for a few gilded hours, invincible. You have your appointment for next week already. You will keep it. Somewhere underneath the glow, a quieter part of you has noticed how badly you want the next one, and has decided, for now, not to mention it, because the glow is wonderful and everyone you admire is doing the same thing, and surely that many beautiful people cannot all be wrong. You start every meal now with half a grapefruit, because the magazine and your friend and the woman at the salon all swear it burns the fat off whatever you eat next. So there is a grapefruit half at breakfast you skip, a grapefruit half at the lunch you push around, and a grapefruit half at the dinner you are afraid of, each one sectioned with a little serrated spoon and eaten to the bitter rind. Your tongue is raw from the acid. Your teeth ache. But the grapefruit is doing science on your behalf, or so the story goes, and you cling to the story. The story is that grapefruit contains a secret enzyme, a fat-burning agent, a little chemical broom that sweeps through and carts away whatever calories arrive in its company. Eat the grapefruit first, the story says, and the meal behind it barely counts. It is a wonderful story. It is also completely invented, an enzyme that has never existed anywhere but in the introduction to a diet leaflet, and yet you have arranged your entire eating life around it like a believer around a saint. The grapefruit itself does do something, just not the magic thing. It is sour enough to sand the roof of your mouth and acidic enough to make your teeth wince, and half of one before every plate does dull the appetite a little, mostly by making you slightly miserable before the food arrives. But the real reason the diet works is arithmetic so plain that nobody wants to say it out loud. Half a grapefruit and a bit of egg and some black coffee is almost no food. That is the whole secret. There is no enzyme. There is only subtraction. Wearing an enzyme's coat. Bunny, who put you onto it, keeps a bowl of grapefruit on her counter like other women keep fruit for show, except hers is not for show. It is her entire relationship with lunch. She halves one with a large knife, brings it down with a decisive thunk, and eats it standing at the counter with the little serrated spoon, digging out each triangle of flesh with the focus of a jeweler. She's been doing this for so long that she claims to like it now, which you suspect is the sound a person makes after the enemy has fully occupied the territory. The grapefruit has colonized your refrigerator. There is always a net bag of them going slightly soft in the crisper, always a cut half sitting under a dome, always the faint sharp smell of citrus that now means, to you, dieting, the way another woman's kitchen might smell of baking and mean home. You have taught yourself to reach for the grapefruit the way you were once taught to say grace. Automatically, before the meal, a small acidic ritual of penance you perform to earn the right to eat at all. Of course, the enzyme does not exist, and some quiet part of you has always known it, and it changes nothing. Belief in the grapefruit is not really belief in a fruit. It is belief that there is a trick somewhere, some shortcut that means you will not have to be simply, plainly, permanently hungry, that a clever woman can outwit her own body with the right piece of citrus. You want the trick to be real so badly that you have decided it is, and you renew the decision 3 times a day over a raw tongue and an aching molar spoon in hand. By the end of the week, you have eaten more grapefruit than any person should and lost a few pounds you will find again. And your mouth feels scoured and your teeth feel thin, and you are already reading about the next fruit, the next enzyme, the next shortcut that will finally be the true one. You rinse the little serrated spoon and lay it in the rack, where it waits, sour, faithful, and patient, for the next meal, at the start of which you will halve another grapefruit and dig in and wait, with real hope, for the science to begin. You have lunch out of a can now, and so do half the women you know, because there is a chalky liquid meal that promises to replace food entirely and let you skip the deciding. You shake it cold, pour it into a glass so it looks less like medicine, and drink it down while it coats the roof of your mouth. It tastes of vitamins and wet cardboard and faint vanilla. 4 of these a day is the whole plan, nothing else, and it adds up to almost no calories at all, which is the part nobody says out loud but everybody is counting on. The can is the miracle here, the flat, efficient, modern little can, and the miracle it performs is the removal of choice. There is no menu, no portion to judge, no plate to feel guilty about. There is only the can, and the can decides, and you drink what the can says. For a woman who spends every meal negotiating with herself, arguing over each bite, this is a strange kind of relief, like handing your unruly finances over to an accountant. The can does not negotiate. The can just is 900 calories a day, poured out in exactly 4 separate servings, and it asks nothing of your willpower, because it has replaced your willpower with tin. What is in the can is skim milk and soybean flour, and a little corn oil, and a great many vitamins, mixed, canned, and sold as a complete and balanced meal, which it technically is, if your definition of a meal is the smallest amount of nutrition that will keep a person upright. It goes down thick and gritty, coating your teeth, tasting the way a chalkboard smells, and it sits in your gut with a heavy blandness that is not fullness, but is close enough to pretend. Sylvia runs what she calls the lunch bunch, a group of you who used to meet at a restaurant and now meet at her patio table to drink cans, and she treats the whole thing like a modern sisterhood. She sets out 4 glasses on a tray as if serving cocktails, pours each can with a little flourish, and lifts hers in a toast to the figures you are all going to have. You clink glasses of grey liquid diet. You drink to disappearing. It is, from the corner of your eye, a strange scene. 4 grown women in good jewellery toasting one another with canned meal replacement in the sunshine. The advertisements are what really got to you, in the end. They ran pictures of women growing slimmer and slimmer and warned, with a wink, that if you kept it up you might just disappear entirely, might slim yourself right out of existence. It was meant as a joke and a boast at once. But you have started to feel the truth hiding inside the joke, on the afternoons when the can is all you have had and the room goes a little swimmy and distant, that there is in fact a version of this where a woman does quietly disappear, and that the diet does not consider this a failure. The worst part is how boring it is. A dangerous diet you could at least dramatize. This one is merely grey, meal after meal of the same cool, chalky nothing. Until food stops being a pleasure or even a decision and becomes a chore you perform 4 times a day standing at the counter. The can delivers a special flatness reliably, can after can, day after identical day, world without flavour, amen. You rinse the empty can and set it with the others for the bin, a little row of them accumulating on the counter like spent shells. You are not full. You are not hungry exactly either. You are somewhere in between, dulled and vaguely proud, having once again outsourced lunch to a factory in the Midwest. Tomorrow there will be 4 more cans, and the day after 4 more, and somewhere in a boardroom a company is counting its enormous profits in the tidy shape of everything you did not eat. You keep a box of reducing candy in your handbag, and you eat a piece before dinner, on purpose, to spoil the appetite you are about to sit down with. It looks like fudge and tastes like caramel, and you are supposed to have it with a hot drink so the sweetness and the warmth trick your belly into thinking the meal has already happened. Then you go to the table and eat almost nothing and call it willpower. The candy has done the willpower for you. You are, in effect, eating dessert first, specifically so the dinner will disappoint you, and it works. The logic of it, once you lay it out, is a small marvel of turning things upside down. Candy is the enemy. Candy is the sweet, dangerous thing a dieting woman is meant to flee. And yet here is a candy sold specifically to the dieting woman, packaged in a tasteful box, advertised as her ally. A chocolate whose entire job is to make her want no other chocolate, or indeed any other food, for the next hour. You are fighting sugar with sugar. You are hiring one caramel to stand at the door and turn all the other caramels away. How it works, insofar as it works, is a mild numbing agent folded into the sweetness, something that quietly dampens the appetite and takes the edge off hunger, so that a few minutes after the candy you sit down genuinely less interested in the meal in front of you. It is not magic. It is a small chemical bribe paid to your own stomach. Eat this pleasant square, the candy says, and I will make the roast look boring. And your body, easily fooled, believes it and pushes the roast away. Renata swears by the caramel ones and keeps them in a silver box that used to hold actual sweets, back when a box of sweets was a happy thing rather than a tactical one. She offers you one across the bridge table the way she might once have offered a real chocolate, except now the offer is loaded with a second meaning, a little conspiracy between the two of you against the dinners waiting at home. You each take one and let it dissolve slowly, savouring the strange fact that the treat and the diet have somehow become the same object. The genius of the business, and it is a business, is that it has found a way to sell food to women who are trying not to eat. Everyone else is selling less, smaller, fewer. This company sells more, buy the box, eat the candy before every meal, and the more you eat of our product, the less you will eat of everything else. It is a diet that grows its own market by the piece, and you are a loyal repeat customer, chewing your way toward thinness one small sweet bribe at a time. There is something a little sad in the corner of it, which you notice on the evenings you are honest, that you have taken candy, the most uncomplicated pleasure there is, the thing children are simply given because it is nice, and turned it into a tool, a maneuver, a small deception you run on yourself before supper. A child eats a caramel because a caramel is good. You eat a caramel to ruin a meal. Somewhere between the child and the woman, the caramel changed jobs, and you did not entirely choose for it to happen. You tuck the box back into your handbag, next to the pills and the lighter and the little mirror, the whole travelling kit of your maintenance, and you go in to dinner, already half spoiled for it. You will move the food around and take 3 bites and feel the candy doing its quiet, numbing work, and your husband will note approvingly how little you eat, and you will accept the compliment as though the discipline were yours. It was the candy's. You just paid for it and carried it and let it dissolve on your tongue, sweet, helpful, and cheerfully sinister. You meet the other wives for lunch at the restaurant everyone is seen at, and you all order the same chopped salad, and then you all decline to eat it. This is not really a meal. It is a performance of a meal, a staged event where the actual food is a prop and the real business is watching one another. You move the lettuce around with your fork. You take 3 small bites and set the fork down decisively. Across the table, a woman does exactly the same, and you both note it, and you both understand that the one who eats least this week has won something. The restaurant is built for this. It is bright, open, and arranged so that everyone can see everyone, which is the entire point of coming, because a lunch nobody witnesses would be a waste of a good salad going uneaten. You are placed, you are visible, you are on. The waiters understand the assignment perfectly and bring the salads with a straight face, knowing full well that most of the beautiful chopped things they carry out will go back to the kitchen, barely disturbed, and they never say a word, because the tip does not depend on the eating. Gloria sits across from you, and Gloria is the one to watch, because Gloria has turned not eating into a competitive sport with the intensity of a chess grandmaster. She orders enthusiastically, exclaims over the menu, asks detailed questions about the dressing, and then she eats, over the course of a full 90 minutes, perhaps a teaspoon of it. She has raised the fork to her mouth roughly the way a woman lays a wreath, ceremonially, without any intention of consuming. You cannot out-talk Gloria and you cannot outdress her, but you are determined not to be out-fasted by her at your own lunch. So the meal becomes a slow, silent duel conducted entirely through forks. You take a bite, she takes a smaller one. She pushes her plate an inch away, you push yours 2 inches. Someone mentions she is simply not very hungry today, and it moves down the table like a password, not very hungry, not very hungry, until all four of you have claimed a mysterious lack of appetite on the same afternoon, as though a small identical illness had struck the whole table at noon. What none of you says, because saying it would end the game, is that you are all ravenous. You have each had a raw egg or a can or a grapefruit and nothing since, and the salad in front of you is genuinely the most food any of you has seen all day, and you are all pretending, with enormous poise, that it does not interest you in the slightest. The hunger sits under the table with you like a large, well-behaved dog everyone has agreed not to acknowledge. It is a great deal of effort, this performance of ease. The cruelty of it is that the performance is real work with real stakes. Word travels from this table. Who has kept her figure? Who is letting herself go? Who ordered the roll and, God help her, ate it? You are not being paranoid to eat carefully here. You are being observed and judged and reported on by women who like you and would still relay your weaknesses over the telephone by mid-afternoon, because in this town a friend's small failure is a currency and everyone is a little short. The check comes and you have paid handsomely for 4 salads nobody ate, and you rise and kiss cheeks and tell one another how wonderful you all look, and you mean it as both compliment and scoreboard. You walk out light-headed and triumphant, having eaten 3 bites of lettuce in public and won, or nearly won, and you will go home and have a cracker standing over the sink where no one can see, alone at last, released from the theatre, permitted for 1 private minute to simply be hungry. You eat lunch at the studio commissary some days, and you learn quickly that everything on your tray is being read by someone. The publicist notices, the executive at the next table notices. The other contract girls notice most of all, filing away whether you took the roll or left it, whether you finished the plate or pushed it aside like a lady. So you choose your food the way you would choose a line of dialogue for how it looks being delivered, and you leave half of everything, and you never ask for seconds where anyone can see you do it. The commissary is a company cafeteria that happens to be full of famous faces, and it runs on the same law as the rest of the lot, which is that you are always being watched. There are no private meals here. There is only the appearance of eating, staged on a tray, under lights, in a room where your contract, your figure, and your future are all in the same building and all paying attention. A woman learns to compose her tray the way she composes her face. Mr. Kessler, one of the publicity men, drifts through the room at lunchtime with a cup of coffee he never seems to drink, and he sees everything. He does not write anything down. He does not have to. He notes, in that smooth filing cabinet of a mind, that the young one at the corner table has taken pie, and the observation will surface later, gently, in a conversation with her about the camera and the £10 it adds, delivered as fatherly concern, landing as a threat. You have been on the receiving end of one of Mr. Kessler's kind little talks. You order the cottage cheese now. So you build a tray that tells the story you want told. A little cottage cheese, because it photographs as discipline. A piece of fruit, virtuous and light. Black coffee, of course, the badge of the serious woman. The whole tray is small, honest and false, and you carry it through the room, letting it be seen, a small edible advertisement for your own restraint, and you sit and eat a third of it while conducting a lively conversation to draw the eye from how little goes into your mouth. The younger girls have not learned the choreography yet, and you watch them get caught. A new one, hungry from a morning of hard work, loads a real plate, a proper lunch, meat and potatoes and a roll, and sits down to eat it like a person, and you can almost see the little chill move through the room as the watchers register it. She does not know yet that she has just said something about herself, in a language everyone here reads fluently. You want to warn her, you do not. Everyone learns this the same way, by being corrected, and it is not your correction to give. The absurd thing, the thing you could laugh at if it were happening to someone else, is that this is a canteen. It exists to feed working people during a long day of labour, and the labour is real, the hours are long, and the lights are hot, and the work is more tiring than it looks. And into this ordinary human room, built for the ordinary human purpose of lunch, the whole apparatus of surveillance has followed, so that even here, even at the trough, a woman cannot simply be a body that needs feeding. She must be a figure being maintained. You bus your own tray, scraping most of a perfectly good lunch into the bin with a small private pang, and you walk back out into the afternoon, light-headed and admired. You have performed a satisfactory lunch. The right people saw you eat the right amount of the right things, which is to say almost nothing, gracefully. Your stomach files its complaint. You overrule it, the way you always do, and you go back to work on the strength of a third of a cottage cheese and the knowledge that you were, at least, watched being good. You have a fitting today, which means you have a reckoning today, because the wardrobe department keeps your measurements on a card and the card does not forgive. The dress from last season is meant to close, and if it does not close, that is not a wardrobe problem, it is a you problem, and word of it travels upward faster than you would like. Somewhere in the contract you signed there is language about maintaining your appearance, politely worded and absolutely serious. So you stand very still while the pins go in, holding your stomach flat, praying the zipper reaches the top. The contract is the thing underneath all of it. The reason the diet is not really a choice. When you signed, you were young and grateful and did not read the clauses closely, and one of them, tucked among the paragraphs about publicity and conduct, quietly made your body the studio's business. It does not use an ugly word like weight. It speaks of your appearance, your suitability, your fitness for the roles, in the smooth language of a document written by men who will never be measured. But everyone knows what it means. It means stay thin or be suspended. Miss Adler runs the wardrobe fittings, and Miss Adler has a mouthful of pins and the flat, unimpressed gaze of a woman who has been lied to about measurements by every actress in town. She takes the tape around your waist with brisk, professional hands, reads the number to herself, and writes it on the card without expression, and that silent little notation is more frightening than any speech. She does not scold, she does not need to. She simply records the truth of your body in pencil, and the card goes in the drawer, and the drawer remembers. The dress is the test you cannot argue with. A person can debate a scale, blame the morning, plead water. A dress does not debate. It either closes or it does not. And today, as Miss Adler works the zipper up your spine, there is a terrible half-inch where it catches and stops and the whole room seems to pause. You suck in everything you have. You think thin thoughts. And it goes, finally, with a small protesting sound, and you breathe out 1 careful centimetre, and Miss Adler says nothing, which is her version of mercy. What makes it unbearable is that the stakes are not vanity, they are employment. A dress that will not close becomes a phone call. The phone call becomes a conversation about your future. The conversation becomes, if it goes badly enough, a suspension without pay while you reduce. Your career paused like a held breath until your waist agrees to cooperate. The men who run this do not raise their voices. They simply let it be known that the machine has other girls, thinner girls, newer girls, and that a body is a replaceable part. So you diet for the dress the way a factory worker keeps his hand out of the press, because the alternative is a wound you cannot afford. It stops being about a mirror and starts being about a paycheck, a mortgage, a life built on staying inside a set of measurements decided by strangers. There is a grim, clean logic to it that you can almost respect, the way you might respect the weather that could kill you. It is not personal, it is business, and you are the inventory, and the inventory is expected to hold its shape. Miss Adler slides the last pin home and steps back and gives the smallest nod, which from her is practically a parade, and you are released, zipped, marked, and safe for 1 more season. You change back into your own clothes with enormous relief and the resolve, sharp and familiar, to lose another few pounds before the next fitting, so that next time the zipper will not catch, will not pause, he will not make that small terrible sound in a quiet room, while a woman with pins in her mouth writes, "Your body" down in pencil. You get dressed for the evening by first putting on a second, tighter body underneath the one you have. The girdle comes up over the hips, and the long-line bra reaches down to meet it, and between them they squeeze the actual you into the shape the dress expects. This is the diet you can perform in 5 minutes, the one that works instantly, the one that does not care what the scale said this morning. You breathe shallowly all night because deep breathing is no longer available to you, and you count the hours until you can take it off. The girdle is a marvel of engineering aimed at a single goal, which is to relocate you. It takes the soft, honest parts of a woman and firmly redistributes them, pressing the stomach flat, smoothing the hips, hauling the whole silhouette into the long, clean line the decade demands. It is elastic, boned, and merciless, and putting it on is genuine physical work, a wrestling match you conduct with yourself in front of the mirror, tugging and shimmying and finally sealing yourself in. at which point you stand there feeling like a letter that has been forced into an envelope a size too small. What the diet cannot do quickly, the girdle does at once. Months of hunger might take an inch off your waist. The girdle takes 2 off in the time it takes to pull it up. It is the great cheat, the instant result, the reason a woman who has failed every scale all week can still walk into a party looking sculpted, provided she is willing to spend the evening slightly unable to breathe. And you are willing. You are always willing. Breathing is negotiable, the line is not. Fern, your dresser, laces you in with the brisk sympathy of a woman who has strapped 100 actresses into their armour and knows exactly how much it costs. She braces a hand at your back, tells you to hold on to the chair, and works the thing closed with a few practice pulls, and she reminds you, kindly, not to sit all the way down at dinner and to take small bites, because a full stomach and a tight girdle are not friends. She has seen what happens when a woman forgets. She does not want to see it again tonight. The rules of living inside the girdle are strict and unspoken. You do not eat much, because there is nowhere for the food to go. You do not laugh too hard, because the laugh has no room to complete itself. You sit at the edge of the chair, spine straight, perched rather than seated, and you rise carefully. And you do not, under any circumstances, bend at the waist to pick up a dropped glove, because the girdle has opinions about bending, and it will win. There is a small dark comedy in the fact that the garment meant to make you look effortless requires this much effort. You are performing ease while sealed in elastic, laughing lightly while unable to fully inhale. The very picture of a carefree, lovely woman who is in fact conducting a quiet endurance event beneath her gown. Nobody sees the struggle. That is the whole point of it. The girdle keeps its labour secret, the way you keep all your labour secret, so that the loveliness looks like something you simply woke up with. And then, at last, the night ends, and you come home, and the finest moment of the entire evening arrives when you peel the thing off. The girdle releases you with a long, slow surrender, and your body springs gratefully back into its own true shape, and there, pressed into your skin, are the red lines and seams and channels it leaves behind, a temporary map of everywhere you were held in. You stand there breathing, actually breathing, all the way down for the first time in hours, marked and free, until tomorrow evening, when you will pick the envelope back up and fold yourself into it again. You light a cigarette at the exact moment you want to eat something, because that is what the cigarette is for, and you have been doing it so long you have forgotten it was ever a decision. When the craving comes, you reach for the pack instead of the plate. The smoke fills the space, gives your hands and your mouth a job, and dulls the hunger down to something you can ignore for another hour. Everyone slim that you know does this. It is understood, never discussed, the reason there is an ashtray on every surface and a lighter in every handbag in town. The cigarette is the most respectable of your appliances, which is a strange thing to be able to say. But there it is. Nobody hides it. Nobody whispers about it. Where the pills live in a drawer and the girdle lives under the dress and the laxative lives in the back of the cabinet, the cigarette lives right out in the open, in a pretty case on the coffee table, offered to guests, glamorous and public and entirely approved. It is the one part of your maintenance that the world has agreed to call sophisticated, and it earns its keep. The nicotine genuinely takes the edge off the appetite, quiets the belly, gives the restless, wanting hands a small ritual to perform instead of reaching for food. There is the tap of the pack, the draw of the cigarette, the click of the lighter, the first long pull, the whole choreography of it, and it occupies precisely the machinery that would otherwise be occupied by eating. You are not hungry when you smoke. You are busy being elegant, which turns out to feel nearly the same. Kitty is the great virtuoso of it, and watching Kitty smoke is watching a woman who has made a single gesture into an entire personality. She holds the cigarette high and loose, lets it trail a ribbon of smoke while she talks, taps the ash with one decisive finger at exactly the right moment, and she has not, as far as you can tell, eaten a full meal since the Truman administration. Where other women pause to eat, Kitty pauses to smoke, and she is thin as a coat hanger and twice as poised. The arithmetic is grimly efficient. A meal is calories and a cigarette is none, so a cigarette in place of a meal is a straight subtraction with a little glamour thrown in for free. You have made the trade so many thousands of times that your body has rewired itself around it, and now hunger and the urge to smoke arrive together, tangled up, so that you can no longer quite tell whether you want a cigarette because you are anxious or because you are starving, and it hardly matters, because the answer to both is the same small white stick. Of course you know, in the vague way one knows things one intends to keep doing, that this is not medicine, that the thing quieting your appetite is doing other, quieter work in your chest that you would rather not itemize. But that reckoning lives far away, in some later decade, behind a door you keep firmly shut. Today the cigarette is your friend, your accomplice, your appetite's chaperone, and the harm it is doing is patient, invisible, and easy to postpone thinking about, which is exactly how it gets away with it. So you light another one now, in place of the lunch you are not going to have, and you feel the familiar small settling as the hunger backs down and the hands find their job. The ashtray fills through the afternoon, a little accumulation of everything you smoked instead of ate, and by evening you are lightheaded from a diet of coffee and smoke and enormously, effortlessly slim. It is a tidy system. It runs on a habit the whole world applauds, and it is, in its patient way, the most dangerous appliance in the whole handbag, precisely because nobody thinks to call it one. You have an event tonight and a dress that was cut for a slightly smaller woman, so this afternoon you take a water pill, the kind that makes you lose pounds you never actually had. It works by wringing the water out of you, sending you to the bathroom again and again until you are lighter on the scale and drier in every tissue you own. Your mouth goes cottony, your head goes light when you stand, and your legs cramp in the night. But the dress will close for a few hours, and closing the dress is the entire goal of the day. The water pill is the great cheat of the emergency, the thing you reach for when the calendar and the scale disagree and there is no time left for honest dieting. It does not touch a single ounce of what you are actually trying to lose. It has no interest in fat. What it does is order your body to let go of its water, all the ordinary fluid that lives in your tissues and does you nothing but good, and flush it away, so that the number on the scale drops a few quick pounds that were never the problem, and will return the moment you drink a glass of anything. But the scale believes it, and the dress believes it, and for one evening that is enough. You take the little pill after lunch, and within the hour it begins its work, and you spend the afternoon making trips to the bathroom, watching yourself grow lighter, flatter, and drier by the visit, wringing yourself out like a sponge because a garment demands it. By the time you dress for the evening, you are 2 pounds down and slightly hollow, and the zipper glides shut, and you decide, as you always decide, that the trade was worth it. Adele is the one who told you which pill and how many, because Adele treats her medicine cabinet like a professional toolkit and dispenses advice on it freely across the bridge table. She keeps hers in a little enamel box and takes one before every occasion as a matter of course, tapping it out with the casual competence of a woman who has done this 1,000 times. And she has cramped up on more than one dance floor, gone grey and gripped a chair, and taken another the next week. She calls it her before pill, before the fitting, before being looked at. What the pill quietly takes, along with the water, is your body's balance, the careful chemistry that keeps a heart beating steadily and a muscle working right. Flush enough of that away and the legs cramp, the head swims, the pulse does something irregular in the dark that frightens you for a second before you talk yourself out of it. You do not think of a water pill as a serious drug. It is small and it is common, and half the women you know keep one in the bag. But it is quietly draining something you cannot see and cannot easily replace, and you are doing it for a dress. The cruelty of it is how completely temporary it all is. The weight is water, and it comes back every ounce the instant you rehydrate, which you must. The whole exercise buys you one evening of a flatter stomach, paid for with a night of cramps and a cottony morning, and then you are precisely where you started. It is not a diet. It is a costume you achieve chemically and cannot keep. You drink almost nothing at the party, because drinking would undo the pill, so you carry a glass you barely touch and grow thirstier and lighter headed as the night goes on, dry and flat and admired. You get through it. You come home and finally allow yourself a long glass of water, and your body seizes it gratefully, and you feel the pounds returning in real time as you drink. The dress did its job, you did yours, and tomorrow, before the next thing, you will wring yourself out all over again. You keep a quieter remedy in the back of the cabinet for the nights before a big day, the ones you do not mention to anyone, that promise to empty you out and leave you flat by morning. You take it late, when the house is asleep, and you spend an uncomfortable night close to the bathroom paying for a lighter number on the scale. It is not a diet, exactly. It is a punishment you administer to yourself the evening before you have to be looked at, a way of arriving scoured and hollow, and you have convinced yourself this counts as discipline, This one lives further back in the cabinet than the rest, behind the aspirin and the cold cream, because this one you are quietly ashamed of. The pills you discuss at the bridge table, the girdle you laugh about, the cigarettes you flaunt. But this, the flat little box of laxatives repurposed into a weapon against your own dinner, this you keep to yourself. Because even in a world that approves of nearly everything you do to be thin, some instinct tells you this one has crossed a line you cannot quite name. Mr. Voss at the pharmacy sells them to you without comment, and his lack of comment is its own small kindness. He has been filling prescriptions in this neighbourhood a long time, and he has watched a parade of well-dressed women buy this same tidy box a little too regularly, and he rings it up, and he slides it across in a paper bag folded neatly at the top, and he wishes you a good evening. He knows exactly what it is for. He has decided it is not his place to say, and you are grateful, and you both understand that the folded paper bag is a small collaboration in not looking directly at the thing. The logic, if you can call it logic, is that a body emptied is a body lighter, and lighter is the only currency that counts. So the night before, a fitting or a photograph, when you cannot afford the truth of your own weight, you take the remedy and you let it wring you out, hour by uncomfortable hour, so that by dawn you are flat and scraped and a pound or two down. The scale rewards you in the morning. It cannot tell the difference between a woman who is disciplined and a woman who is simply hollowed out, and neither, any more, can you. What it costs you is quieter and harder to see. The body does not enjoy being emptied on command, and it protests, cramping and clenching through the small hours while you sit miserable in the dark bathroom telling yourself, this is what it takes. The tile is cold under your bare feet, and the house is silent except for you, and you keep a towel over the pipes so the sound of the water does not carry down the hall to a sleeping husband who thinks you simply keep an early bedtime. You lose water. You lose the minerals that keep you steady. You wake grey, depleted, and wrung dry, and you paint over the greyness with makeup and coffee, and you go and be looked at, flat at last, running on nothing, calling the whole grim procedure a success because the dress fit. The loneliest part is the secrecy. All your other maintenance is social, performed with friends, discussed and compared and half enjoyed. This you do alone, in the middle of the night, in a locked bathroom, ashamed, and the shame does not stop you, it just isolates you, so that the one part of your dieting that most needs a witness to say enough is the one part no one ever sees. You flush and rinse your face and go back to bed hollow, and in the morning you tuck the box behind the aspirin again, where it waits, patient and quiet, for the next night before. You are on the doctor's new plan this month, the one from the book everyone bought, and it has narrowed your entire diet down to lean meat and water. Protein and nothing else, the book says. No bread, no fat, no fruit, just steak and fish and eggs, and low-fat cheese, washed down with 8 full glasses of water a day. The theory is that the body works so hard digesting the protein and flushing the water that it burns itself thinner in the effort. What it mostly gives you is spectacularly bad breath and a permanent, urgent acquaintance with the nearest bathroom. The book is a sensation. A doctor wrote it, a real one, with his name on the cover and his portrait inside looking confident and clinical, and he promises quick weight loss to anyone who will eat, as he says, which is to say almost nothing but protein and drink water until they slosh. Everyone you know is on it. It has the great appeal of permission wrapped around a restriction, because you may eat steak, actual steak, as much as you like, provided you never again look at a potato, and to a woman who has been living on grapefruit and cans. Unlimited steak sounds like a holiday. The holiday wears off around the 3rd day. It turns out that steak with no bread, no butter, no starch, no sweetness, nothing but more steak, becomes its own kind of prison surprisingly fast, and the 8 glasses of water on top of it leave you bloated, sloshing, and running to the bathroom every hour on the hour. You had imagined this diet as a feast. It is a feast the way a hostage situation with a wardrobe allowance is a professional commitment. Technically there is meat. Cack. Emotionally there is despair. Junie is deeper into it than you, and has developed the diet's signature affliction, which the book does not advertise on the cover. Her breath, from all that protein burning with no carbohydrate to soften it, has taken on a distinct chemical sharpness that could rent itself out as a paint stripper, and she has begun standing a polite half-step further back in conversation, and offering mints she does not explain. You take one. You do not mention why. You are, after all, 3 days from the same fate, and there is an unspoken solidarity among women whose diets have started to announce themselves before they enter a room. The science, such as it is, sits on a small true fact inflated into a large promise. It is true that protein takes a bit more effort to digest, and true that all that water flushes you out, and from those modest facts the book builds a cathedral. What actually thins you, as ever, is that a diet of plain meat and water gets boring so fast that you eat far less of it than you would eat of a normal varied meal. The magic is monotony. Nobody overeats their 9th consecutive lump of unseasoned protein. By the second week, even the smell of broiling meat, which used to mean Sunday and a full warm table, has curdled into something you flinch from, the way you might flinch from a song the radio has played one too many times. So you slosh through the month, meat and water and mince, your breath a small chemical flag of your discipline, and the pounds do come off, because they always come off on any plan that bores you into eating less. You will tire of it soon, as everyone tires of it, and drift back to bread and gain it back, and read the next doctor's next book with the same fresh hope. But for now you cut into another unbuttered steak, raise another glass of water in a joyless private toast, and excuse yourself, once again, to visit the bathroom you have come to know so well. You are at a party, holding a martini, and you are technically dieting while you drink it, because a little book this year says you can. Cut the bread and the potatoes and the sugar it promises, and you may drink all the scotch and gin you like and still grow slim. Your husband loves this book. The men all love this book. So you sip the cold gin on an empty belly and feel it go straight to your head, and you skip the canapes entirely. And you tell yourself the alcohol is a permitted indulgence, rather than the only calories you will have all night. The book arrived like a gift from a mischievous uncle, a slim, cheerful pamphlet promising that the one thing a person most wanted to keep, the cocktail, was not only allowed but practically encouraged, so long as you gave up the dull, respectable carbohydrates instead. Give up bread to keep gin. It is the first diet in years that asks you to sacrifice something other than pleasure, and the whole town has fallen on it with relief, because at last here is a plan a person can follow at a party without looking like a martyr. Gordon, your husband, treats the book as personal vindication, waving it at dinner parties, quoting its permissions, ordering the steak and the double scotch with the clean conscience of a man following doctor's orders. For him it genuinely works this way, more or less, a big man cutting bread and drinking his usual and trimming down. For you it works differently, because you were not eating much bread to begin with, so the diet simply removes the little food you had and leaves the alcohol standing alone, unopposed, hitting an empty stomach like a wave hitting an open door. That is the part the cheerful little book does not dwell on. Gin on nothing is a different animal from gin on dinner. You have skipped the canapes to stay faithful to the plan, and now the martini is arriving in a body with no ballast, and by the second one the room has gone soft and warm and slightly tilted, and you are holding a wall you are pretending is a conversation. You are dieting beautifully. You are also technically drunk on schedule, which the diet counts as a success. The genius and the danger are the same thing, which is that it feels like getting away with something. Every other plan is subtraction and suffering. This one hands you the glass and calls it health. And so a woman who would never dream of eating a dessert will, in perfect dietary good conscience, drink her dinner 3 nights a week, growing slimmer and more lightheaded at once, mistaking the wobble for glamour, because the book with the doctor's confidence swore that the gin was fine and only the bread was the enemy. Somewhere a sensible voice has pointed out that gin is not actually free of calories, that the martini keeps its own generous accounting whatever the book says. Nobody wants to hear it. The whole appeal of the plan is precisely that it lets you not know that, and a woman at a party does not thank you for the one fact that would take the cold glass out of her hand. So you finish the martini and decline the little quiches and let Gordon refill your glass, thin, gleaming and empty, running the whole evening on juniper and willpower. You will be slim in the photographs and unsteady on the stairs, and you will call it the easiest diet you have ever done, which in a sense it is, because it asked you to give up food and keep the very thing that was hardest on you. You raise the fresh glass, skip the tray a waiter offers, and toast, a little too warmly, to the only diet in America that lets you drink your supper. You have taken up the wonder foods this season because a tanned and charming man with a radio voice has convinced half of Hollywood that youth lives in a jar of yeast. He has 5 miracle ingredients, and you keep all of them in the pantry now, a jar of brewer's yeast, a tin of blackstrap molasses, a bag of wheat germ, skim milk and yogurt. Every morning you take a spoonful of the molasses, dark and bitter as engine oil, and you shudder it down, believing it is doing you enormous good. He says it will keep you young. You have decided to trust him. The man is a phenomenon, a nutrition prophet with a golden tan and a warm, confiding manner, and he has done what no dry doctor ever managed, which is to make eating well sound like a glamorous secret shared between friends. He has books, he has a column, he has a voice on the radio that half the women in these hills arrange their mornings around, and he has an enviable list of famous devotees, great faces of the screen who swear by his spoonfuls and lend him their glow. If the most beautiful women in the world eat his blackstrap molasses, you reason, then his blackstrap molasses must contain something the rest of us are missing. His genius is that his advice is, by the standards of everything else in your cabinet, almost sensible. He is against white sugar and white flour and the boxed processed food creeping into every kitchen. And he is for whole grains and vegetables and fresh, simple things, which is not madness, which is nearly wisdom. But he cannot leave it at wisdom, because wisdom does not sell jars. So he wraps the sense in a great, glittering promise that these 5 foods in particular are magic, that a spoon of molasses is not merely iron and minerals, but a small daily dose of youth itself. He does not put a price on youth. He puts a price on the jar, and the jar, it turns out, is quite reasonably priced for a bottle of eternity. Perpetua is his truest believer in your circle, and has furnished her entire pantry to his specifications. Rows of wheat germ and brewer's yeast lined up like a chemist's shelf, and she begins every lunch by informing you of what each one is doing for her liver. She takes her molasses with the solemnity of a communicant, 1 level spoonful, eyes half closed, and pronounces it life-giving, and she has never looked better, though whether that is the molasses or the fact that she is happy to have a system, you could not say. The believing may be doing more than the yeast, and that, you suspect on your clear-headed days, is the real active ingredient in the whole business, not the molasses, the faith. It is a genuine relief, after the pills and the cans and the punishing water diets, to follow a plan that tells you to eat rather than starve, to add good things rather than subtract everything, and that relief alone probably does you more good than any spoonful. The man has sold you permission to take care of yourself dressed up as a miracle, and the permission works even where the miracle is nonsense. So you keep taking the molasses, dark and slow off the spoon, and the wheat germs scattered over the yogurt, and the brewer's yeast stirred grimly into juice, and you feel, on the whole, better, younger, and more virtuous, whether or not a single one of these foods has earned the feeling. The tanned man on the radio says another reassuring thing in his warm, certain voice, and you nod along in your kitchen with the spoon in your hand, a devoted congregation of one, and you swallow the bitter, dark promise and believing, for once, does not seem to hurt you. You are 3 days into the soup, and the whole house smells of boiled cabbage and will for the rest of the week. The plan is brutally simple. A great pot of thin cabbage soup, made once and eaten endlessly, as much as you want whenever you want, and almost nothing else for 7 days. You ladle it cold at midnight and warm at noon. The pounds do fall off, quick and dramatic, which keeps you going, though you suspect and try not to know that most of what is leaving you is water. Everyone you live with has begun eating in other rooms. The appeal of the soup is the word unlimited, which no other diet dares to offer. Everywhere else the rule is less, smaller, fewer, a tightening fist. The soup opens its hand and says, eat as much as you like, fill the bowl again, on the single condition that the only thing in the world you are permitted to eat is this. It is generosity and cruelty in one pot, all you want of the one thing you will very soon never want to see again. The smell is the first casualty of the household. Boiled cabbage has a penetrating, permanent quality, a low green funk that gets into the curtains and the hallway, and your own hair, so that by day 3 the house announces your diet to every visitor before they have taken off their coat. You have stopped noticing it, the way one stops noticing a sound, but you can read it plainly on the faces of people arriving from outside, the small, polite flinch, the decision not to mention the smell that is clearly wearing the house like a coat. Bernadette, your sister-in-law, is doing the soup with you in a spirit of grim togetherness, and the 2 of you compare notes by telephone each evening like soldiers in adjacent trenches. She reports her pounds lost with fierce satisfaction, and her symptoms with rueful honesty. the gas that would be illegal in 3 countries, the headache, the way a person on nothing but cabbage water begins around day 4 to snap at her husband over the soup she is choosing to eat. You trade complaints and encouragements and hang up and go ladle another bowl, bonded by shared suffering neither of you was required to undertake. The pounds are real and they are also a magic trick. The scale drops fast, 3, 4, 5 in a week, but a good deal of what rushes off is water and the contents of a gut that has nothing much to hold, and it comes flooding back the moment you eat a normal meal. You know this. You knew it going in. But 5 pounds in a week is a drug of its own, a number falling fast enough to silence the part of you that knows better, and you keep ladling. By day 6, the soup has become an enemy you must trick yourself into swallowing. And no trick works anymore. Not the pepper, not the lemon, not eating it with your eyes half shut, because the problem is not the seasoning. It is that you have eaten a swimming pool of cabbage, and your whole body is in open revolt. You are lighter. You are also faintly poisoned by vegetables, gassy headache, and sick of the sight of green counting the hours to the end. And then the 7th day passes, and you are done. And you pour the last of the great grey pot down the drain with a joy out of all proportion, and you air out the house. And you step on the scale to admire your 5 vanished pounds. They will be back by the weekend, most of them, riding in on the first real dinner you eat. But that reckoning is days away, and the number today is glorious. You scrub the pot until it forgets it ever held soup, and you swear, as you swear after every one of these, that you will never do it again, and you mean it until the next time you need to lose 5 pounds by Friday. You are taking a reducing pill now that is built around thyroid, the gland that sets the speed of the whole body, and yours works perfectly well without any help. The pill does not care. It pushes your metabolism faster, whether it needs pushing or not, so you run warm and jittery, your heart quicker than it should be, burning through food and through yourself at the same rate. The scale rewards you and your pulse pays for it. You can feel your heart in your chest in the quiet moments, tapping a little too fast, a little too hard, and you have decided that is simply what thin feels like. The idea, when the doctor explained it, sounded almost clever. The thyroid gland runs the body's furnace, sets how fast you burn what you eat, and some unlucky women have a sluggish one and stay heavy through no fault of their own. So the pill gives you extra of what that gland makes, turns the furnace up, and you burn hotter and thinner. The small detail nobody dwells on is that your furnace was working fine to begin with, and turning up a furnace that does not need turning up is a way to burn down the house. What it feels like from inside is a constant low-grade emergency dressed as energy. You are always a little warm, a little damp, a little too awake. Your hands have developed a fine tremor you hide by keeping them busy. Your heart, the patient muscle that was supposed to keep its own steady time for your whole life, has been ordered to hurry, and it hurries, beating faster than the moment calls for, thudding when you climb a single flight of stairs, fluttering now and then in a way you feel in your throat and choose not to think about. Charlotte, who put you onto these, has been on them longer, and Charlotte has begun to frighten you a little. She is thin, enviably thin, thinner than the pills alone should manage, but she is also somehow lit from within by a nervous electric current that never switches off, talking fast, moving fast, her eyes a touch too bright, her pulse visible at her temple. She pressed a hand to her chest at lunch last week and went quiet for a moment and then laughed it off, and you laughed too, and neither of you said the word that was sitting there on the tablecloth between the coffee cups. Here is the arithmetic the pill runs, whether you agree to it or not. Speed the heart up all day, every day, for months, and it will get you thin, yes, but it is spending something that does not come back, running a healthy young muscle at the wrong tempo until, in some women, the tempo simply breaks. Doctors know this. It is why thyroid belongs to sick glands and not to vain ones. And yet it goes into the reducing pills anyway, folded in among the other colours, because it works, and working is the only question the market ever asks. So you take it with your coffee and feel the familiar warm hum come up, and you go through your day fast, bright and burning, thinner by the week, your heart keeping its anxious new time in your chest. You have made a bargain you try not to examine, trading the steady beat you were born with for a smaller dress, betting quietly that you will be one of the women it merely exhausts, and not one of the women it stops. You press your own wrist sometimes, feel the quick hard pulse there, count it against the second hand, and then you put your hand back in your lap and decide, once more, that this is just what thin feels like, and reach for the coffee. You have a standing appointment at the reducing salon, where thin is something done to you while you lie there, and you rather enjoy it. You stretch out on a padded table and a motorized roller works up and down your thighs, kneading the fat as though it can be pushed off like dough. Then you stand at the machine with the wide belt around your hips and let it shake you hard enough to blur your vision, holding the rails, jiggling. It accomplishes nothing at all, medically speaking, but it feels like effort, and it feels like being cared for, and both of those feel like progress. The reducing salon is the great luxury of the whole business, because it is the one place your regimen lets you be passive. Everywhere else you must do the work. Resist the food, take the pill, hold your breath in the girdle. Here you simply arrive and lie down and let the machines labor on your behalf, which is a delicious inversion. Thinness delivered like a massage, weight loss you can nap through. That it does not actually work is almost beside the point. You are not really buying results. You are buying an hour of feeling that the problem is being handled by someone other than you. The rolling table comes first, and it is genuinely pleasant. A long padded bench with wooden rollers that turn under a canvas belt, and you lie back and let them travel up and down your thighs and hips, kneading and pressing with a firm mechanical rhythm. The theory is that the rollers break up the fat and roll it away somewhere, which is not how fat works, has never been how fat works, and would be alarming if it were. But it feels like a strong pair of hands insisting on your improvement, and you drift, half asleep, being rolled like dough that has been promised it will become bread. Miss Pruitt runs the machines with the brisk cheer of a woman who has long since stopped wondering whether any of it does anything. She straps you into the belt machine herself, settles the wide band low around your hips, checks that you have a good grip on the rails, and flips the switch with a little pat, and then the thing seizes you and shakes, jiggling your flesh violently while you stand there vibrating like a struck bell. She watches the clock, makes pleasant conversation you can only half hear over the rattle of your own teeth, and switches it off at exactly 10 minutes, and tells you that you are doing wonderfully. You feel that you are. The belt machine is the great comic centerpiece, a wide strap that grips you by the hips and shudders as though trying to shake the very shape off your bones, on the theory that fat can be jostled loose and, presumably, encouraged to leave. It cannot. All it does is shake you, blurring your vision, buzzing your voice into a warble, jiggling everything that jiggles with tremendous energy and no effect whatsoever. And you stand and take it because standing and taking it feels so much more like doing something than the quiet daily work of simply eating less. So you put in your hour, rolled and shaken and steamed and patted, and you leave the salon pink, buzzing and convinced against all evidence that you are a pound closer to the goal. Nothing has changed on your body. Something has changed in your mood, which is that you feel tended to, worked on, improved, and that feeling is the actual product, sold by the appointment. You book next week on your way out, thank Miss Pruitt, and step into the sunshine still faintly vibrating, having paid good money to be jiggled toward a thinness the machines were never going to deliver. You put on the rubber suit before you do the housework, because it promises to melt the fat off you through sheer perspiration, and you are willing to try melting. It clings and squeaks and traps the heat against your skin, so that within an hour you are slick and dripping and the suit smells of hot rubber and effort. You weigh yourself after and the number has dropped, which thrills you, and you drink a tall glass of water because you are parched, and the number climbs right back. You have sweated out a pound of water and brought it back in one glass, and you do this happily, again and again. The suit is a strange garment to own, a clammy rubber affair that seals you in from wrist to ankle and turns your own body heat against you, and the entire premise, printed cheerfully on the box, is that fat can be melted like butter and sweated out through the skin. This is not true. Fat is not butter and does not melt and cannot be wrung out through the pores, and some part of you has always known this, but the suit is on the box next to a photograph of a very slim woman, and the very slim woman is persuasive, and so here you are, sealed in rubber, mopping your own brow. What the suit actually does is make you perspire, copiously, which any hot afternoon would also accomplish for free, and perspiration is water, and water has weight, so you do step off lighter after an hour of sweltering. The scale reads the loss, and you feel the small hot thrill of a number going down, and for a moment the suit seems vindicated. Then you drink, because you must drink, because a woman who has sweated for an hour is genuinely thirsty, and the water you drink is the water you lost, and it returns to the scale precisely as fast as it left. Dodie wears hers on the exercise bicycle, and has convinced herself the two together are a system, pedaling grimly in her rubber casing with a towel around her neck, red-faced and streaming, checking her weight before and after with the devotion of an accountant. She loses 2 pounds a session and gains them back by supper and does it again the next day. And if you point out gently that the water simply returns, she says that is not the point, that it is about discipline, that the sweating means it is working. You do not argue. You are, after all, standing there in your own rubber suit. The genius of the thing, and it is the same genius that runs the belt machine and the reducing soap and half the products in your cabinet, is that it produces a real number for an imaginary reason. You did lose 1 pound. The scale did not lie. It simply measured water on its way out and let you believe, for the length of one glorious way in, that you had accomplished something permanent, when what you had accomplished was a great deal of laundry and a powerful thirst. So you finish the housework in your clammy, squeaking suit, dripping and triumphant, and you peel it off at last with the same relief you feel peeling off the girdle, your skin flushed, pruned, and grateful for the air. You step on the scale and admire the loss, and then you drink the tall, cold glass of water your body has been begging for, and you watch the pound come home, and somehow this does not discourage you at all. You hang the rubber suit to dry over the shower rail, where it drips and smells of hot rubber, and you plan, already, to sweat the same pound off again tomorrow. You cannot sleep, and the reason you cannot sleep is the pills you took to get through the day, so there is a second bottle for the night, whose only job is to undo the first. You take one when the ceiling will not stop being interesting and your heart will not slow down, and it pulls you under into a thick, heavy chemical sleep that feels less like rest than like being switched off. In the morning you are groggy and slow and reach for the bright pill to climb back out. Up in the morning, down at night, up, down, and you call this a schedule. The 2 bottles live side by side in the drawer, a match set, and between them they have taken over the job your own body used to do for free. There was a time, you dimly recall, when you simply got tired in the evening and slept, and simply woke in the morning and rose, without any chemistry involved, the way a person is designed to. That machinery still exists somewhere inside you, but it has been overruled. The morning pill will not let you get tired on schedule, so the evening pill must be called in to knock you down, and each one now requires the other, a little closed loop with you sealed inside it. The evening pill does not give you sleep so much as it confiscates your consciousness. Real sleep is soft and comes in stages and leaves you restored. This is a heavy switch thrown in the dark, a sudden drop through a trapdoor into a thick blank nothing, and you wake from it, not rested but merely returned, hauled up out of the black with sandbags on every limb, and a mouth like a drawer of old cotton. It is the difference between falling asleep and being anesthetized, and your body knows the difference even when you pretend not to. Vivian takes the same nighttime pill and has started, worryingly, to need a little more of it than she used to, because the body grows used to these things and asks for a larger knock to go down. She mentioned it lightly the way one mentions needing stronger reading glasses, that one does not quite do the job anymore, so she takes 1.5. You heard the sentence and something cold turned over in you, because you know where that arithmetic goes, 1.5 becoming 2, becoming a dose that does not leave a margin. And you said nothing useful, and neither did she, and you both had another coffee. The danger of the down pill is quieter and larger than the up pill, and everyone half knows it. The bright one might wreck your nerves and race your heart, but the heavy one, taken a little too enthusiastically, taken with the evening's wine, taken by a woman too foggy to remember she already took one, is the kind that does not let you wake up at all. It is a narrow ledge between the dose that brings sleep and the dose that ends it, and you walk that ledge every night, in the dark, slightly impaired, trusting yourself to count correctly while barely conscious. So you take the heavy pill and feel the trapdoor open, and you drop through it into the switched-off dark, and some hours later the alarm hauls you up grey, sandbagged, and reaching already for the bright one to start the whole thing over. You do not sleep and wake anymore. You are put down and brought up, dosed in both directions, a woman run entirely on a schedule of pills that cancel each other, and you have lost the thread of when you last felt simply, naturally tired, and closed your eyes, and rested, and meant it. You have heard about the newest method from the woman down the street, and it is the simplest one yet, because a woman who is asleep cannot possibly eat. The plan is to take enough sedative to sleep for most of the day, 16 hours, 18, 20, if you can manage it, waking only briefly and groggily before going back under. Days pass this way, lost on purpose. You come to at the wrong hours in a dim room, unsure what day it is, and you take another and sink again. It is marketed almost as a spa treatment, this sleeping the weight away, and it is far more dangerous than anyone admits. The logic has a terrible simplicity that a starving mind finds beautiful. Every other diet asks you to be awake and hungry and to resist, hour after conscious hour, the food that is always within reach. This one removes the hunger by removing the hunter. Put the woman to sleep and she cannot open the refrigerator, cannot want, cannot fail, because she is not there to do any of it. You do not fight the appetite, you simply are not present for it. It is the diet as a form of absence, and to a woman exhausted by the daily war, absence sounds like peace. The method appears in a famous novel this year, a fat glittering book about beautiful women and the pills they live on, and the book has made the whole idea fashionable, whispered about at parties as the thing a certain kind of desperate woman is doing. There are stories of the famous trying it, checking into quiet places to be sedated into days of unbroken sleep, waking thinner and vaguer, and the stories are told with a shiver that is half horror and half envy, because underneath the horror is the same tired thought that, at least for those days, she did not have to try. Mrs. Farrow down the street has done it, and you called on her afterward and wished you had not, because what you saw frightened you more than any scale ever could. She came to the door slow and dim, surfacing from somewhere far down, her words arriving a beat late, her eyes not quite tracking the room. She had slept, she said, for the better part of 3 days, and lost several pounds, and she said it with a soft, drugged pride, and you sat with her and watched her drift mid-sentence, and you understood that she had not been dieting. She had been practicing something closer to disappearing. What the spa language hides, under all its soft towels and rest cures and its talk of a nice long holiday from yourself, is that the only tool here is the sedative, and the sedative does not know you are using it for your figure. It only knows how to suppress, and if you take enough to erase most of a day, you are taking enough to slow the breath, to blunt the reflex that would wake you if something went wrong, to walk that same narrow ledge as the nighttime pill, except now you are on it for 20 hours at a stretch. Women do not always wake up from this. That is not a rumour. That is the arithmetic of enough sedative to sleep a day away, and there is no glamour in the drawer where it is kept. So you stand at the edge of trying it, tempted the way the very tired are tempted by any offer of oblivion, and you think of Mrs. Farrow at her door, surfacing slow, proud and hollow, and something in you steps back from the ledge, this once. You do not take the sedative in the daylight. You are not entirely sure you never will, on some bad enough week, and that uncertainty is its own quiet alarm. It is the only diet you have met that asks you to solve the problem of your body by not being in it, and you set the idea down carefully, the way you would set down something that might go off. You have a premiere tonight and a gown that was fitted a size ago, and the entire day has been organised around making your body meet it. No solid food since yesterday. The water pill this afternoon. The girdle laid out on the bed like armour. You have been preparing your body for this dress the way an athlete prepares for a match, except the sport is fitting into a garment for 3 hours in front of cameras. When the zipper finally closes, you exhale a small prayer of gratitude, and then you do not eat, or sit fully, or breathe deeply, until you are safely home and can take it off. The gown is beautiful, and it is the enemy. It hangs on the closet door all afternoon, gleaming and unforgiving, cut to a measurement you were closer to a month ago than you are today, and the whole day bends itself toward the single goal of reaching that measurement by 8 that evening. This is not dressing for an evening. This is a campaign, with a deadline and a strategy and casualties, and the casualty is every ordinary comfort of being in a body, sacrificed one by one so that a length of expensive fabric will meet across your back. You have deployed the full arsenal. You stopped eating solid food yesterday so your stomach would be flat and empty. You took the water pill after lunch so your tissues would give up their weight. You have the girdle ready, the last hard line of defence, to press in whatever the starving and the draining could not reach. Each weapon has done its job, and together they have remade you, for one evening, into the slightly smaller woman the dress was built for, at the cost of leaving you hollow and dry and laced too tight to bend. Miss Beck, the seamstress, is on hand for the final assembly, kneeling at your hem with pins in her mouth and the calm of a woman who has zipped many a starved actress into a stubborn gown. She works the zipper up your spine slowly, a hand flat against your back, murmuring for you to breathe out, all the way out, and hold it, and in that held airless second the two sides come together and the little metal teeth close one by one, and she pats your shoulder and you may breathe again shallowly from the top of your lungs only. She has performed a small miracle with a zipper, and she does not even look surprised. Then comes the evening itself. 3 hours of standing very straight in a garment that permits no error. You cannot eat, because there is no room and no wish to test the seams. You cannot sit all the way back, only perch. You cannot laugh from the belly or bend for a dropped program or take the deep breath your light-headed, foodless, dehydrated body keeps quietly requesting. You smile for the cameras with your organs rearranged and your lungs half available, radiant and starving, the very picture of a woman to whom all of this comes easily. And all the while you are doing sums in your head, the private arithmetic of endurance, counting down the hours until you can go home. One more turn on the carpet, one more conversation held from the top of your breath, and then the car, and then the door, and then, finally, the release. The whole glittering public evening is, from the inside, a countdown to the moment it ends. You get home at last, and Miss Beck's miracle is undone in 10 grateful seconds. The zipper down, the girdle off, the deep breath arriving at last like water to a swimmer, and your body springs back to its true size the instant it is allowed. You stand there in the quiet, marked, hungry and free, and somewhere out in the night, the photographs are already going to the papers, showing a slender, effortless woman at a premiere, giving no hint at all of the day-long campaign it took to make her, or of how fast she came apart the moment she got home. You are the hostess tonight, moving through your own party with a drink you will not finish, and you know without asking that nearly everyone here is running on the same chemistry you are. The bright eyes, the fast talk, the way no one touches the beautiful food you laid out. Half the room took a capsule to be this animated, and will take another to come down and sleep. You refill glasses and laugh at the right moments and skip the buffet entirely, and the whole glittering evening runs on a fuel nobody names, a whole beautiful crowd wide awake on the same secret and pretending it is just good company. You laid out a magnificent spread, because a hostess must, platters of it, cold cuts and little sandwiches and a whole glazed something on a silver tray, and you already know it will go back to the kitchen barely touched. Everyone here is on a diet, or a pill that removes the appetite, or both. So the food functions the way a fireplace functions in June, as decoration, as a signal of plenty that nobody present intends to use. You will send most of it home with the staff. The buffet is a stage set. The real menu tonight is liquid and pharmaceutical. The tell is in the eyes and the tempo. There is a particular brightness to a room full of people running on the little pills, a glassy shine and a speed to everything, conversations pitched slightly too fast and too loud, laughter arriving a half-beat early, a collective animation that is a touch too bright to be entirely natural. You know it because you are wearing it too, the same shine, the same hum, and you can spot it across a room now the way a smoker spots another smoker, an unspoken recognition passing between two people who are both, at this moment, chemically wonderful. Miss Ordway, who writes the column Half This Room Fears, works the party slowly with a drink she also is not finishing, and she misses nothing, and everyone performs a shade harder as she drifts near. She notes who is too thin and who is too animated and who has stepped away too often to the powder room, and some of it will surface in print and some of it she simply keeps, a private ledger of the town's secrets. You greet her warmly and stand a little straighter, and offer her the buffet she declines, and the two of you exchange pleasant nothings while both silently taking inventory of the other. The strange thing, the thing that strikes you when you step back to the edge of your own party for a moment, is how normal the secret has become by sheer numbers. When two people share a habit, it is a scandal. When the entire room shares it, from the young starlet to the studio chief to the hostess herself, it stops being a habit and becomes simply the water everyone is swimming in, invisible precisely because it is everywhere. Nobody here would call this a room full of people on drugs. They would call it a lovely party, and mean it. So you play your part, the gracious hostess, gliding from cluster to cluster with your untouched drink, running on the same fuel as every guest and hiding it exactly as well as they hide theirs. The evening has a wonderful glittering momentum, everyone sparkling, everyone slim, all of it held up by the same quiet chemistry nobody will name aloud, least of all you. At the end you see the last guest out and stand a moment in the wrecked bright rooms, the full platters, the drained glasses, the ashtrays, and you feel the shine beginning to wear thin and the long fall coming, and you know there is a pill upstairs for that too. You will take it and be pulled down out of the evening into the switched-off dark, and tomorrow you will do it all again, host or guest, bright, hungry, and hollow, in a town where the party never quite stops and nobody ever quite eats. You stop at every mirror you pass, and there are many, and each one gets the same quick, brutal inspection before you move on. You turn sideways and check the stomach. You lift the chin and check the jaw. You pinch, discreetly, at a hip through the fabric to measure what is there. This is not vanity, exactly, though it looks like it. It is surveillance, a constant low-level monitoring of a body you have been taught to distrust, conducted in shop windows and powder room mirrors and the dark screen of the television when it is off. You never simply catch your reflection, you always assess it. The house is full of mirrors, and you have a relationship with each one. The hall mirror gets the full turn, sideways, chin up, stomach in, a quick, complete inspection on the way to the door. The powder room mirror gets the close work, the jaw, the beginning of a line, the hollow or the fullness of the cheek. Even surfaces that are not mirrors are pressed into service. The shine of a spoon, the black glass of the switched-off television, the chrome of a new toaster that hands you back upside down and enormous, each one offering a version of you to be checked against the standard and found, almost always, a little wanting. It is not admiration. That is the thing an outsider would misread. A woman pausing at every mirror looks like a woman who loves what she sees, when in fact you are doing the opposite, hunting for the flaw, the half-pound, the softness at the jaw, the place where the discipline has slipped. The mirror is not a compliment you pay yourself. It is an inspection you submit to, dozens of times a day, a body under permanent audit by its own owner, who has been trained to look at herself the way a customs officer looks at a suitcase. Susan, your daughter, is 9, and you have started to catch her doing it, and it stops your heart a little every time. She pauses at the hall mirror now the way you do, turns a small sideways turn, glances down at a stomach that is a child's stomach, round and perfect and exactly as it should be, and you can see her checking it against something, some standard she has absorbed out of the air of this house without a single word being spoken. She learned it from watching you. You never taught it, and you taught it completely, and now it is in her too, the habit of the sideways glance, and you would give anything to take it back out. Because that is how it passes down, not through instruction but through the corner of the eye. No mother sits her daughter down and teaches her to distrust her own body. The daughter simply grows up in a house where her mother pauses at every mirror and pinches at every hip and pushes away every plate, and she learns the whole grammar of it silently, fluently, the way she learned to speak, so that by the time she has grown, the audit will feel like her own idea, native to her, something she has simply always done, with no memory of the small watching girl who first copied the turn at the hall mirror. So you go through your day under your own steady surveillance, mirror to mirror, checking, pinching, and turning, and you try, when Susan is watching, to do less of it, to pass a mirror without stopping, to let a reflection go unassessed. It is surprisingly hard. Your feet stop at the glass out of pure habit. Your eye drops to your own stomach before you can prevent it, and you catch yourself, and you make yourself walk on, and Susan watches you not stop, and you hope, without much confidence, that she is learning that too, that a woman is allowed to pass a mirror and simply keep going. You buy the magazine at the drugstore because the cover promises the private diet of a star you admire, and you read it in the car before you have even driven home. Here is exactly what she eats, it says. Here is her secret, her trick, the reason she looks like that. You study it like scripture. You do not stop to wonder whether it is true, whether she really lives on this, whether a team of people and a doctor and a fortune stand behind that flat stomach. You simply copy it down and resolve to begin tomorrow, and you feel for an afternoon that you have been let in on something. The cover did its job on you from across the store. There was her face, luminous and certain, and beside it the promise in bright letters, her diet secrets revealed, her figure explained, and your hand went to it before your mind had a vote. You have bought this magazine or one exactly like it, more times than you could count, always for the same reason, the belief that this issue, finally, contains the missing piece, the specific thing the thin women know that you do not, printed at last where an ordinary woman can read it. Inside is a tidy little box of a diet, attributed to the star, laid out meal by meal. Half a grapefruit and black coffee, a small salad, no dressing, a lean piece of fish and a green vegetable, and perhaps, if she has been very good, a single square of dark chocolate at night, mentioned to make her seem human. You read it the way a pilgrim reads a map to a shrine, and you copy it onto the back of an envelope in your purse, and already you can feel tomorrow reorganizing itself around this new sacred menu. What you do not do, what the magazine is very careful never to encourage you to do, is ask whether any of it is real, whether she truly eats this, or whether a studio publicist invented it over lunch. Whether the flat stomach comes from the grapefruit or from the doctor with the needle, the pills in the gold box, the personal cook, the trainer, the money, the youth, the luck, the 1,000 advantages that do not fit in a tidy printed box. The magazine sells you the grapefruit and quietly keeps the doctor out of frame, because the grapefruit is a thing you can buy and copy, and the doctor is not. Trudy buys the same magazines and the two of you trade them, dog-eared and marked, comparing the latest revealed secrets over coffee like scholars of a strange scripture. She has a drawer full of copied-out star diets. This one's breakfast, that one's trick, a whole archive of borrowed regimens, and she moves through them one after another, always certain the newest is the true one, always a little crushed when it turns out to be grapefruit and coffee again under a different famous face. You never quite say to each other that it is always, underneath, the same near starvation with a new photograph on it. So you drive home with the envelope of copied secrets in your purse, and the familiar hope rising in you, warm, bright and certain, the sense of a plan, a fresh start, a specific glamorous woman whose exact plate you are going to eat your way onto. It will last a few days, this one, until the hunger and the boredom win as they always win, and then there will be a new cover, a new face, a new secret, and you will pull the car over at the drugstore again, and buy it again, and feel again, for one more hopeful afternoon, that this time you have finally been told the truth. You have decided to eat the way she eats, the actress from the magazine, and you follow her supposed routine down to the last carrot with the devotion of a convert. If she has cottage cheese and half a peach for lunch, you have cottage cheese and half a peach for lunch. If she drinks the strange tonic, you find the strange tonic. You are not really dieting anymore so much as trying to inhabit another woman, to borrow her discipline and her luck and her face by borrowing her plate. The plan changes every time a new star gives an interview, and you change with it, faithfully, each time sure this is the one. It has stopped being about the food, if it ever was. When you eat her exact lunch, some quiet, magical part of you believes you are eating your way toward being her, that if you match the plate closely enough the rest might follow, the cheekbones, the ease, the way the camera loves her, the whole enchanted life that produced that flat stomach. You are not counting calories. You are performing an incantation, and the ingredients must be exact, because a spell with the wrong peach in it will not work. So you hunt down her specifics with the seriousness of a woman assembling a ritual. The particular cheese, the half peach, not a whole one, never a whole one. She was very clear. The odd tonic she mentioned, which you tracked to a health food store across town and paid too much for, and now drink each morning making the same small face she surely does not make. It tastes of grass, pennies and copper, and costs more than good wine, and you finish every last drop, because leaving a drop would be a flaw in the spell. You have turned your kitchen into a shrine to a stranger's appetite, stocked entirely with the props of someone else's discipline, and you move through it reverently, doing as she does. Nadine is on a different star this month, and the two of you compare devotions like women following rival saints. She is doing the one who eats 9 small meals of nothing much, and you are doing the one who eats twice a day and swears by the tonic, and you each defend your chosen actress's method with a loyalty that has very little to do with nutrition and everything to do with hope. Neither of you stays on one for long. A fresh interview appears, a new luminous face confesses a new secret, and you both convert on the spot, abandoning last month's saint without a backward glance. What you are really chasing, underneath the peaches and the tonics, is not thinness at all but transformation. The belief that a life can be climbed into like a dress, that the gap between you and the glowing woman on the page is a matter of menu and not of money and youth and 1,000 things you cannot buy at the health food store. If it were only the plate, you could close the gap. That is the seduction of it. The plate is the one part of her you can actually copy, so you copy it fiercely and pretend the rest is coming, and it never quite comes, of course. You eat her exact lunch for a week and you are still yourself, hungrier, a little thinner perhaps, but unmistakably you, with your own face and your own life and your own ordinary luck, and the enchantment fails to take. So you set that star down, gently, the way you set down all of them, and you wait for the next interview and the next secret and the next luminous face to copy, forever assembling other women's plates in your own kitchen, forever certain that the right one, eaten faithfully enough, will finally turn you into someone else. You understand without either of you ever saying it that staying thin is part of your job as a wife, folded quietly into the arrangement along with the house and the parties and the arm you take walking into a room. Your husband is a man who is seen, and being seen with you reflects on him, so your figure is, in a sense, his figure too. He notices when the dress is tight, a small comment, a raised eyebrow, nothing cruel, just clear. So you diet not only for the camera and the contract, but for the man across the breakfast table, and you fold that pressure in with all the rest and carry it. The arrangement was never written down, which is what makes it so difficult to argue with. Nobody put it in the vows, but it was always there in the design of the thing, the beautiful wife on the successful arm, a matched set, and you both understood the terms without discussing them the way you understand which side of the bed is yours. He provides the life, you provide the picture. And a central feature of the picture, non-negotiable and unspoken, is that you remain the slender, lovely woman he was seen to have won. Gordon is not a monster about it, which almost makes it harder, because there is nothing to push against. He does not shout or forbid or count your bites. He simply notices, in the mildest possible way, and lets you feel the noticing. A glance held a second too long as you reach for the bread. A light remark about a starlet at a party who has let herself go, delivered without any apparent point, landing squarely on you. He would be genuinely surprised, even hurt, to be told he pressures you. He thinks he merely appreciates a well-kept wife, the way he appreciates a well-kept car. And so the pressure at the breakfast table turns out to be the heaviest of all, heavier than the contract, heavier than the camera, because you cannot be suspended from a marriage and sent home to reduce, or rather you can, and that is precisely the fear. The studio can replace you with a newer girl, and so the quiet arithmetic runs. Can he? The town is full of newer girls. You have watched it happen to other wives, the slow trade-in, and you do not name the fear even to yourself, but it sits at the table with the coffee, and it keeps your hand from the bread as firmly as any doctor's pill. What makes it lonely is that this one has no audience to perform for and no applause to collect. The commissary lunch is watched by rivals, the premiere by cameras, but the woman staying thin for her husband does it in the most private theatre there is, the ordinary breakfast, the everyday dinner, the two of you and no one else, and the effort must be invisible even here, especially here. He must not see you not eating. He must simply see a wife who is naturally, effortlessly, permanently the shape he married, as though it cost you nothing, as though you were assembled to those exact measurements at the factory, and require no upkeep beyond an occasional dusting. So you push the eggs around and take the coffee black and leave the bread untouched in its basket, and you do it lightly, gaily and effortlessly with no visible strain, because the performance for Gordon is the performance of ease. He kisses your cheek on his way out, tells you that you look wonderful, and means it as affection, and you receive it as both love and instruction, the compliment and the requirement folded into the same warm sentence. Then the door closes, and you are alone with the untouched bread, and you allow yourself for one private minute to be a woman who is simply, ordinarily hungry before the day and its many audiences begin. You watch the new girl come onto the lot, 22 and effortlessly slim in the way you have to work for now, and you feel the ground shift a little under you. She does not diet yet. She does not need to. She eats a full lunch without a thought and photographs like a dream, and the executives look at her the way they used to look at you. You are not old. You are not even close to old. But in this business, the clock runs faster, and you can feel the diets getting harder and the results getting smaller, and you understand that you are now racing something you cannot beat by skipping breakfast. Sandra is her name, and Sandra is what you were 6 or 7 years ago, before the pills and the cans and the long war with the scale, a girl so newly minted that her body simply does what it is told without being bribed or starved or drugged into cooperation. You watch her at the commissary loading a real plate, meat and potatoes and a roll, eating it like a person, and you feel a complicated thing that is not quite envy and not quite grief, because you remember when your body was that generous, when thin was simply the weather you lived in, and not a country you had to invade every morning. The cruelty is that her ease makes your effort visible, As long as everyone was starving, your starving was normal, invisible, the price of admission everyone paid. But Sandra does not pay it. Not yet. And her unbothered plate throws a hard light on your grapefruit, makes your discipline look like what it is, a great deal of work to stand still. Next to her, you can suddenly see the labour in yourself, the maintained quality, the way a repainted room looks fine until someone opens a window onto a new one. And the executives see it too, which is the part that keeps you up. You have watched the way their attention moves, the warmth that used to fall on you now falling a few feet to the left, onto the girl who does not need the warmth held for her because she has time, years of it, a long runway of youth you have already half spent. Nobody has said anything, nobody ever says anything, in this town, until they say the only thing, and you have seen it said to older women before you, gently, finally, and you know the shape of it. So the regimens change their character. They used to be about a role, a dress, a premiere, a specific event with a specific deadline. Now they are about the clock itself, about staying in the running against a field that refreshes every year with new 22-year-olds who eat rolls, and it is a race with no finish line you can ever cross. Only a finish line that eventually crosses you. You cannot out-diet time, you know this. You skip breakfast anyway, because it is the only lever you have ever been given, and a woman will pull the lever she has. You are kind to Sandra, genuinely kind, because none of it is her fault, and because you remember being her, and because the alternative, being the bitter older woman who freezes out the new girl, is a role you refuse to play. You show her where things are. You warn her obliquely about Mr. Kessler and the trays, and you watch her eat her untroubled lunch with a warmth that is real, tender and sorrowful, knowing that in 6 or 7 years she will stand where you are standing, watching a girl of 22 eat a roll, and understand for the first time exactly what you are feeling now, and wish someone had told her, though nothing anyone could have said would have made the smallest difference. You lost the weight, all of it, the dramatic crash before the season, and now you are watching it come back the way it always comes back, a little faster and a little heavier than before. This is the part of the cycle nobody puts in the magazine. The body, starved, learns to hold on, so every crash makes the next one harder, and every pound returns with a friend. You know this in your bones by now, the grim arithmetic of it. And yet, when the number climbs, you do not conclude that the diets do not work. You conclude that you must find a better diet, and you go looking. The pattern is so old and so reliable that you could set a calendar by it. The crash comes first, the weeks of grapefruit or cans or cabbage, the pounds falling off fast and thrilling, the triumph on the scale. Then the crash ends, because no one can live on cabbage forever, and you return to something like ordinary eating, and the pounds come marching home, and they bring reinforcements. You end each cycle a little heavier than you started it, which means the next crash must be a little harsher, which guarantees the next rebound will be a little worse. It is a staircase that only goes down while appearing to go up. The body is doing exactly what a body is built to do, which is the maddening part. Starve it and it does not applaud your discipline, it panics, quietly concluding that a famine has arrived, and it responds by slowing its own furnace and clinging to every calorie it can find, hoarding against the next shortage. So the very act of crashing teaches your body to regain faster, to hold tighter, to make the next loss harder won. You are not failing at the diet. You are trying to bail out the ocean with a monogrammed teaspoon, and the ocean, which has all the time in the world, is not especially worried. Peg has been on the staircase longer than you and has the shape of it memorized, and she says the truest thing anyone has said to you about any of it, over coffee, without much drama. She says she has lost the same 30 pounds, perhaps 8 times now, that if you added up everything she has lost across the years she has shed an entire second person, and yet here she still is, heavier than when she began, having spent a decade and a fortune to arrive slightly above where she started. She laughs when she says it. It is not really a funny thing, and you both know it, and you laugh too. What you never do, what none of you ever does, is draw the obvious conclusion. A reasonable woman watching a method fail her 8 times in a row might begin to suspect the method. But the belief is stronger than the evidence, because the belief has the whole world behind it, every magazine, doctor and advertisement insisting that the diets work and that your failure is your own, a shortage of willpower rather than a surplus of biology. So you take the blame the diet should take and you go looking for the next one, certain the fault was yours and the fix is out there. So you stand on the scale watching the old familiar numbers climb back, and you feel the familiar resolve harden in you. Not the resolve to stop, never that, but the resolve to try again, harder, smarter, with a better plan. There is a new one you have heard about. There is always a new one. You will begin it Monday, and it will work for a while, and then it will fail the way they all fail, and you will regain what you lost with interest, and stand here again in a few months, heavier and undiscouraged, ready to climb one more time down the staircase you are convinced is leading up. You have a part that starts filming in 3 weeks, and the camera adds weight. Everyone knows the camera adds weight, so you have 3 weeks to lose more than a body should safely lose. This means the strictest version of everything at once. The pills at their limit, the liquid meals and nothing solid, the water pill and the sweating and the sleep you cannot get. You are dizzy and cold and your hands shake, but the pounds are coming off on schedule, which is all anyone asked of you. You will make the date. You will make it looking wonderful and feeling like something scraped hollow, and you will call that professional. The deadline changes everything, because a deadline turns dieting from a chronic condition into an emergency, and in an emergency you stop pretending to be sensible. The measured version of your maintenance, one pill, one can, one careful day at a time, goes out the window, and the full arsenal comes down off the shelf at once. You take the morning pill, and then, when it wears thin, another. You drink the cans and skip even the pretense of a real meal. You take the water pill more often than you should and sweat in the rubber suit besides, and you drive yourself down toward the number the way a man drives a car he intends to sell. Mr. Brill, your agent, delivered the start date over the telephone with the breezy confidence of a man who has never once in his life been asked to lose 8 pounds in 3 weeks. He mentioned in passing that they would like you looking your best, your very best, and you heard everything folded into that phrase, the whole polite machinery of the demand. He did not tell you how. He never tells you how. The how is your department, conducted in private, with pills and cans and a rubber suit, so that Mr. Brill can go on believing that his clients simply arrive looking their best, as if by breeding. What 3 weeks of this does to you is not visible in the mirror, which is the whole trouble, because the mirror shows only the triumph, the sharpening jaw, the flattening stomach, the visible reward that keeps you going. What it does not show is the rest of it, the racing heart, the constant cold, the way you have started to feel your own pulse in your ears, the strange grey distance that has settled over your thinking, the dizziness when you stand. The body is being asked to shed a piece of itself on a schedule, and it is complying, and it is sending up every alarm it has, and you are overruling all of them because a camera has a date. And here is the terrible efficiency of it. It works. That is the thing that keeps the whole machine running, that the crash actually delivers, that 3 weeks of near starvation and chemistry genuinely produces the woman the camera wants, thin, sharp, and luminous under the lights. Nobody on that set will see the cost. They will see the result and praise it, and the praise will confirm what you already believe, that a woman can and should hollow herself out on command to meet a date, and that the hollowing is not damage but discipline, not a wound but a job well done. So you drive yourself the last hard mile to the start date, dizzy and shaking and exactly the right weight, and you step onto the set looking wonderful, and the lights come up, and you are luminous, and no one can tell that the luminous woman is running on almost nothing and held together with pills. You hit your mark, you say your lines, you give them the very best you promised, scrape down to it, and when the day wraps you go home hollow and victorious, already dreading and half planning the next crash for the next date, having proven once more that you are a professional, which in this town means a woman who will do this to herself on schedule and smile. You are sitting still, doing nothing strenuous, and your heart is going like you have run up a hill, and this has been happening more and more. The years of speeding up and slowing down by prescription have started to send their invoice. Your hands tremble. Your sleep is gone unless a pill gives it to you. You are anxious in a way that has no cause you can point to, jumpy and raw, and some mornings the world tilts when you stand. You have spent a decade doing violence to yourself in the name of looking well, and the body, patient until now, has begun quietly presenting the total. The heart is the loudest of the complaints. It has spent years being ordered to hurry by the morning pills and the thyroid tablets, and now it hurries on its own, without being asked, breaking into a gallop while you sit reading, thudding hard enough that you can see the fabric of your blouse move, fluttering and skipping in a way that stops your breath for the length of the skip. You press your hand flat to your chest and wait for it to settle. It settles mostly. It did not used to need to settle. That is the change you keep noticing and keep not mentioning to anyone. The other complaints arrive more quietly, but they arrive. The tremor in your hands that you cover by holding a cup or a cigarette, giving them a reason to be occupied. The sleep that has simply left you, so that without the heavy pill you lie awake till dawn, wired and hollow, and with it you drop into the switched-off dark that is not rest. The anxiety that has no story attached to it, a raw electric dread that hums under ordinary afternoons. The dizziness on standing, which you have privately reclassified as a moment of glamorous faintness rather than a symptom. Your body is not being dramatic. It is itemizing, line by line, everything the last 10 years cost, patient and thorough, as a little bookkeeper who has finally been handed the ledger. There was a doctor, briefly, a new one, not one of the yes men, who listened to your chest longer than usual and got a still, careful look and asked you, gently, what exactly you had been taking and for how long. You told him a softened version. He did not scold. He just wrote something down and got that careful look again and told you that the heart is a muscle and not a machine, that it keeps a running account, and that the account was showing some strain. You thanked him and did not go back, because you were not ready to hear the rest of the sentence, and a woman can decline to hear a sentence for a surprisingly long time, because the diets are not something you do anymore. They are something you are made of. 10 years of pills, crashes and starvation have not sat lightly on top of your life. They have gotten into the works, rewired the nerves, retuned the heart, taught the whole system to run at the wrong speeds, and you cannot simply set it all down like a handbag, because the damage does not leave when the habit does. You built your body out of this. Now you live in the building. So you sit with your hand on your galloping chest, waiting for it to quiet, and you feel for the first time a real flicker of fear that is not about a dress or a number or an aging rival, but about the actual machine you live in, the one you have been spending so freely for so long. It settles again. This time, you breathe. You tell yourself it is nothing, the way you have told yourself everything is nothing for 10 years, and mostly you believe it, because believing it is easier than the alternative. But something in you has heard the bill being read, and knows the total is real, and knows, quietly, that it will come due whether or not you ever agree to look at it. You open the magazine expecting the usual, and instead you find a girl who has changed the rules overnight. 90 pounds of English teenager with a boy's straight body and enormous eyes. Suddenly the shape you have half killed yourself to achieve, the soft curved figure the whole decade admired, is the wrong shape, out of date, too much. The target has not just moved, it has become almost impossible, a body most grown women simply cannot have. You look from the page to the mirror and understand that the finish line you have been chasing has been picked up and carried even further away, and that you are expected to keep running. The cruelty of the timing is exquisite. You have spent years perfecting the ideal, starving and pilling and cinching yourself toward the celebrated hourglass, soft, curved and admired, the very thing the whole decade wanted, and just as you have gotten close, just as the work has nearly paid off, the whole world quietly changes its mind and decides that the thing to be now is a straight thin line with no curves at all. It is like training for years to win a race and arriving at the finish to find they have changed the sport to something you cannot play. And the new shape is not merely different, it is, for most grown women, unreachable. The curved ideal was punishing, but at least it was a woman's body, achievable with enough starvation by a woman built along those lines. This new one is the body of a teenager who has not finished becoming a woman, 90 pounds, hipless, a straight boyish line, and you are a grown adult with a grown adult's frame, and no amount of grapefruit or pills or sweating in rubber will turn your bones into a 15-year-old's. The target has moved somewhere your body physically cannot follow, and the world says follow anyway. Susan, your daughter, loves the new girl, of course, tapes her picture to the mirror, studies the straight, thin lines of her with a hungry admiration, and something in you goes cold watching it, because Susan is a child, and the new ideal is shaped like a child, which means the thing your daughter is being taught to want is to stop her own body before it arrives, to stay a straight, thin line, and never round into the woman she is quietly becoming. You watch the old ideal get into her at the hall mirror. This one goes further. This one tells her that growing up is the thing to prevent. What you understand now, standing with the magazine, is that the finish line was never standing still. It was on wheels. 8. You spent years running at the hourglass, and the moment you got close, the hourglass became a plank, and if you ever reached the plank, it would become something else again, a coat hanger, a whisper, a rumour of a girl, always one dress size past wherever you actually arrived. A shape you can catch is no use to anyone. There is nothing left to sell a woman who is allowed to stop. So you look at the 90-pound girl on the page, and then at your own grown body in the glass, and you feel something that is almost, but not quite, the beginning of refusal. Not tonight, and maybe not for a while, but a first small crack in the belief, a first flicker of the thought that a race you can never finish might be a race not worth running. You close the magazine before Susan can ask to keep it. You do not take it out of her reach fast enough, and you know it, and you resolve, without much idea how, that whatever you do to yourself, you will find a way to teach her that the finish line is a lie, since no one ever managed to teach it to you. You begin to hear, here and there, that the pills you have lived on are being taken off the shelves, that a magazine ran an expose, that men in Washington held hearings and used the word dangerous about the little bottles in your cabinet. It does not happen all at once, but the ground is shifting under the whole glittering apparatus, the doctors and the tonics and the cans and the rainbow pills, and one by one they are being named for what they were. You stand at your mirror one more night, tired in a way sleep does not fix, and you begin, slowly, to wonder what your life would feel like if you simply stopped. The news comes in pieces, the way weather changes. A story in a magazine about the rainbow pills and the deaths they caused, laid out in plain print where anyone can read it. A rumour that the hearings named names, that the makers of the little coloured bottles were made to sit in a room and answer for them. Word that the fashionable injection doctor is in trouble at last. That the miracle in the syringe is being called what it always was. None of it arrives as a thunderclap. It arrives as a slow accumulating pressure, a sense that the whole arrangement you built your body on is quietly being condemned. Mr. Voss, at the pharmacy, is the one who tells you plainly, because Mr. Voss has watched this whole decade cross his counter in paper bags and has earned the right. He says, sliding your prescription across, that they are pulling a number of these, that the rules are changing, that some of what he used to hand over freely he can no longer get, and he does not say good riddance, but you hear it under the careful words. He has filled these bottles for you for years without comment. This is the closest he has ever come to comment, and you understand it as the kindness it is. What you feel is not simple relief, which surprises you. You would think a woman being told the poison is being taken away would be glad. But the poison has been your discipline, your control, your whole method for meeting an impossible demand. And without it, you feel not freed but exposed. A soldier told the war is over, who no longer remembers how to be a civilian. If not the pills, then what? The demand has not gone anywhere. The cameras still roll, the dresses still must close, the new girls still arrive. Only the tools are being taken, and no one is offering you another way to be enough. And yet, standing at the mirror, tired down to the bone in a way that no pill has been able to touch for a long time now, you let yourself think the forbidden thought all the way through for once. What if you simply stopped? Not switched methods, not found a cleaner diet, but stopped, got off the staircase, let your body find whatever ordinary size it wanted to be, and spent the enormous energy you have poured into this on almost anything else. The thought is terrifying, and it is also, underneath the terror, the first genuinely restful thing you have felt in years. The thought is quiet, strange, and enormous. You do not decide tonight. It is too big to decide at a mirror at the end of a long day, and the habits of a decade do not lift like a lid. But something has changed. Some small, permanent thing. The moment you let yourself imagine the stopping without immediately taking it back. The world that sold you all of this is beginning, grudgingly, to admit what it sold, and you are beginning, even more grudgingly, to admit what it cost. So you cap the bottle and turn off the light and go to bed a woman who has, for the first time, seen the shape of a different life, and who suspects, lying there in the dark, that she may yet be tired enough and brave enough, and finally free enough, to walk toward it. And so the night winds down. You spent it starting every meal with half a grapefruit, drinking your lunch out of a can, and eating a piece of fudge on purpose to spoil your appetite for dinner. You took the bright pill in the morning and the heavy pill at night, smoked instead of eating, sweated in a rubber suit, and swallowed 8 glasses of water because a book told you to. You wore a girdle so tight you forgot what a full breath felt like, and you called all of it looking after yourself. It was, all told, a very full day of nearly starving in a beautiful house. But think for a moment about the real women who lived this. Not the flat stomachs on the magazine covers, but the ones at the small mirrors, turning sideways, pinching a hip, doing the math on a grapefruit. They were told, from every screen and every doctor and every glossy page, that their worth was their waist, and that the newest pill was modern medicine, and that modern medicine does not lie. They trusted the men in the white coats because trusting them was the sensible thing to do. They only wanted what anyone wants, to be lovely a little longer, and to be told they were enough. There is something quietly moving in it, when you sit with it. A whole town of women running on coffee and willpower and chemistry, each one certain the next diet would finally fix her. None of them ever quite allowed to simply eat lunch. Thank you for spending this strange, hungry evening with me. You do not have to weigh anything tonight. You do not have to earn your rest or fit into anything tonight. There is nothing to fix, nothing due, no one watching. So let the day fade now. Let your shoulders drop down away from your ears. Let your hands fall open. Let your jaw go loose. And let your body rest heavy and warm and entirely unmeasured against the sheets. Breathe all the way out. Feel how little it asks of you, simply to lie here and be still. You have nothing to maintain now, nothing to skip, nothing to be but tired and warm and here. Sleep well.